as well. 4 perfect innings in his start, but Alex Cora went to the bullpen. Rich Hill, he's back, but he gave up Spencer Torkelson. That's a tough name to say. A 4-1 final in Detroit. Boston in Flushing, Queens tonight to take on the Mets. Elsewhere, the Yankees lead in the AL East down to half a game. They lost 14-7 to the Cardinals. The Orioles, 6-1 winners over the Rockies. Astros won their 5th straight game, 4-2 over the Royals. And the Guardians, behind Alex Cobb, he had 6 no-hit innings before finally yielding a hit in the 7th. They beat Pittsburgh 6-1. Sunday Night Baseball, Nick Castellanos walked it off in the 11th with a single. The Phillies beat the Braves 3-2. College football last night, 23rd ranked USC, a late score to beat number 13 LSU 27-20. BC has a nightcap this evening. They will take on 10th ranked Florida State. We had a couple of golf tournaments of note. Scotty Scheffler, he is $25 million richer. He won the Tour Championship with a 4-shot win over Colin Morikawa. He has 7 tournament wins on the season to take the trophy. And Heiran Ryu won the LPGA FM Championship. That was down at TPC Boston over the weekend. She won that in a playoff over fellow South Korean Jin Young Ko. In the U.S. Open, women's 3-seed Coco Gauff bounced in 3 sets by fellow American Emma Navarro. On the men's side, American Francis Tiafoe and Taylor Fritz. They are both on to the quarterfinals with twin 4-set victories. And finally, we got some lacrosse in Foxborough this afternoon. Boston Cannons hosting a quarterfinal matchup against Carolina at 4 p.m. And they part of a doubleheader. Also, you'll see Denver and Maryland in the nightcap. Your headlines brought to you by Safety Insurance, providing comprehensive coverage for your auto, home, and business. Ask your independent agent about safety. I'm Sean Silver, Boston's home for sports, 98.5 The Sportsub. Next update at 6:30.
This is Jaylen Brown.
Jaylen Brown turns the corner. Finger roll is up and good. Score in the foul.
This is the home of the Boston Celtics.
Hello. Hello.
He's naked. He has a sword.
Open him up with a football.
98.5. The Hub. Bruins are back from the West Coast.
Cocaine and hookers. Yes. Na.
Is it okay to use this for the radio?
Yeah. Welcome to the show, you sweet bitch.
Hang out with my dad. I have a fake heart. I'm not supposed to read that.
Good morning. Not the voice of Fred Toucher that you're accustomed to hearing, but Sean Silver here with you on a Labor Day morning. I am joined by WBZ TV's Dan Roche.
I was saying one of the first times I was ever on, way back when, if our listeners remember, and you should, Liz Walker, who was great with Jack Williams. I was in BZ Radio for, 6 years prior to that, and I'd see Liz all the time in the hallway, and just she sat, not too far from me and everything else. And my first assignment was covering the Terry Glenn that was in court, in Rentham District Court, after getting to a little domestic squabble. Yes. And, 2 parts of that. One was when she first introduced me, she said, I think she had probably never seen my last name spelled. So she said, let's go to WBZ's Dan Roche, who's standing by. And I was like, thanks, Lies. That was one. And then the second part of that was one of my first assignments. So he was in court, and he also had a hamstring injury. Mm-hmm. So people were concerned about, would he be able to play? Would he play? Would he play because of court, not court, and everything else? So this TV reporter for Channel 5, Ron Golovin, was a lawyer type of guy. So him and I came out with our cameras, and you see somebody coming out of court we're walking down, the pathway, and it's me on one side and Ron on the other. And Ron is like, do you have anything to say about the allegations? And Terry Glenn didn't say a word. And I'm like, how's your hamstring? Because I was doing sports. So I'm like, and he's like, it's getting better. It feels a little bit better. And then Ron would say, what they said in court was this. Do you have any comment on that? Nothing. And then I'd say, do you think you'll be able to play Sunday? So it was me just being my little sports world versus the real world of life. And it was kind of funny. That was one of my first assignments at WBZ TV.
The real definition of stick to sports right there.
Yes, exactly.
For his legal benefit, sticking
Yes.
to sports was definitely a good idea for Terry Glenn.
How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm just back from Long Island, as they might say. We're gonna do a lot of pronunciation stuff this morning.
Sure.
I'm gonna get fantastic South Korean golfer name wrong in my headline. We're gonna talk about Long Island. But
Yes, when I went to Syracuse, so it was capital LON and then capital GISLAND.
lot of
Long Island.
lot of natives of Long Island at Syracuse.
Yes.
Is that just
a lot of football
place where
players,
they
at least
go?
when I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had some friends out there. Made the trip with the two kids, age 6 and 3. They are down for road trips, and generally, I think it made it back in one piece.
Really?
But it took a different route, Dan.
When'd you go?
Well, people, they always kind of bag on Connecticut, like, oh, geez, Connecticut, I have to drive through Connecticut. What a pain. Well, usually we take, like, the New Haven or the Bridgeport ferry, because for where we're going, it's easy. You get on the ferry, you go right across, and we're right where we need to be. This time, we went out of New London, which goes into the far east end of Long Island. And we're, like, out there in, like, wine country.
Wow.
Kind of like
Did you stay there, or were
farmland.
you?
No, we were just making the drive down the island to go see our friends who are in the middle of Long Island. So, that like hour plus drive through farm country, it was kind of like a little bit like driving through the Outer Cape.
Yes.
Or like rural, like beach Rhode Island, that sort of area. Can't comment on too many places north of the city because I'm not generally a south of Boston guy, but
Every part of Vermont.
yes, yes. But it was beautiful. We did stop, to just take a couple of breaks and just kind of enjoy doing it. But it was like, it would really be great to have a glass of wine right now. But I have a 6-year-old and a
Yep.
3-year-old in tow, and
Can't put that in the sippy cup.
nor would that be particularly relaxing. So I could just.
But it's also, what, you're close. So to me, the best ages, my kids are all older now, grown up and everything else. To me, the best ages were 10 and 7.
Yeah.
That's when they have the ability to travel. You don't have any diapers. You don't have any sippy cups.
No naps,
they're-
do it
yeah,
here, too.
and they're kind of like adults, but they nap when you want to nap, so it's good.
Oh.
And they're kind of like adults. I think we did the West Coast trip. Started at San Francisco, saw a ball game at AT&T Stadium along the water, and then drove through Pebble Beach and along the winding roads and what have you up to L.A., did a Dodgers game, then did an Angels game in Anaheim, did Disneyland, and then finished at Petco in San Diego and did that trip for like 10 days. It was awesome.
You did that with the kids?
Yes.
Wow.
It's tremendous.
I did that at maybe 28 or 29 with a friend, except we did the reverse. We started in San Diego and made our way up. We actually went out. We flew into Phoenix and did a game there and rented the car there. Went to the Grand Canyon, then went to San Diego, and then went up. But was it true that I believe it's Hemingway? A lot of quotes are misattributed, particularly on the internet these days. But what was
Really?
it? The coldest summer I ever spent in my
was in
life
San Francisco.
was in San Francisco.
It gets really cold. It's weird too.
Gosh,
It just comes on like nothing. And
it's like
people,
a beautiful day, and then
Yes.
we go to the ballpark at night.
and it's like frigid.
Holy cow!
Frigid, yes. But we went. So Larry Lucchino, who used to work for the Padres, and he suggested to me, a friend of his. Actually, we did an interview. We were doing Friday Night Baseball on TV 38. We did a Giants Red Sox game out there, and did a tour of the ballpark and everything else with the president of the San Francisco Giants. whom Larry had suggested we talk to and everything else.
Is it like Brian Sabian or something?
No, he was the general manager. He's a
Okay.
New Hampshire guy. But this was the Larry Bear, I think was his name. And he suggested, I said, when I come back, where should I sit? And he said, get tickets up far as you can in right field in the third deck. He said, because you have in a sunny day, you have a beautiful view of the bay to your right and the ballpark. And it was spot on. So we bought cheap tickets up in the right field stands.
Nice.
And looking down, it was fantastic. And we have a great picture of the guy who sold drumstick cones. It was walking around, with the ice creams. And we had him going like this. And there's four of us in the background way up in right field. So
And
it
the
was,
drumstick guy as
you
well.
could see the Bay Area in the background and stuff. It was beautiful. I was there for an all-star game, too. It's just a great ballpark. And now Mike Yastrzemski is playing there, Carl's grandson.
Yeah.
And he's been hot lately, which is great to see. But it's a really cool place to see. And I like, as you can tell by that trip, ballparks.
Oh, yeah.
Different ones, and you get to see them all. So
Yeah,
it's
have
really
you,
cool.
in your capacity, obviously doing the Friday Night Baseball over the years, have you been to, not all of them, obviously, there's been some turnover,
Right.
but have you been to all of the teams' parks? Because that actually was a goal of mine that I'd set out to accomplish a number of years ago, and I think, yeah, I've been to every, because I can't say I've been to every park.
Right.
Because
I'm the same.
inevitably new ones will be built. But I've been to every team's stadium at the time.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I think you got me beat on that because I don't think I've been to Cincinnati for a baseball game.
Well, Cincinnati for a baseball game.
I'm going for the football game Sunday.
There you go.
But I've never been to that one. But I've been to a lot of them, and I never I think you know me well enough, Sean, that I love my job and I love every day something different. And I never took it for granted when I went to a new ballpark. I'd walk around and try to see what you could see and all the different little characteristics of a ballpark. And it was really cool. San Diego Lake Petco Park, another park that Larry Lucchino and company built, has so many. You could go to 20 games and sit in 20 different places.
Yeah.
And it's still a pretty cool view and things like that, which I love. To me, that's the most important part is I hated going to games where you'd be way up high in the third deck and you'd be like, you can't see anything. Like the old Three Rivers at Pittsburgh.
The old
which was
cookie cutter
terrible to
stadiums.
watch. Yes, with the artificial turf and everything else. Then you go to the stadium now and it's beautiful. PNC Park.
Best park in
yeah.
Major League Baseball.
And you walk across,
potentially
from the
PNC.
city, you walk across the bridge and you're right there. It's like so cool.
So cool.
Saw the All-Star game there. Carrie Underwood did the national anthem that year. So it was, it's stuff like that's really cool.
I was actually getting texted from a buddy last night who was on the Clemente Bridge, and I guess there was a Smashing Pumpkins Green Day concert.
Really?
At PNC last night, so they
Wow.
were just kind of taking it all in.
Yeah. Now that's a great trip,
That
right?
does sound great. I mean, obviously concerts at Fenway have kind of changed the game, but certainly there's some other great places to watch an outdoor concert.
So when'd you get back? Last night?
Yeah, I got back around towards the kids' bedtime. It was just in time to check the email and see kind of some of the stuff that was on the table for today, and
Yeah.
put the kids to bed and didn't have much left in the tank myself. So,
I was the same way. I watched the first half of the USC LSU game, and I had a fantasy draft going with my son's league that we started when he was in 5th grade, and now
Wow.
he's 29, so we've been doing it since then, and it's been fun to watch them get better and better and better and blow me out of the waters towards the end of this run here. But did that, watched the USC LSU game, went to bed. So
you feel like this year might be the year?
for me, no.
No.
I had a lousy draft. I wanted youth, and I just kept missing youth.
Oh.
So I didn't know when to take. And plus, we have a weird league where quarterback play is everything.
Oh, okay.
So my son texted me at one point because I'm so used to doing the regular fantasy football.
Running
where he
back
said, Dad,
first.
yes. He's like, Dad, don't forget quarterbacks mean everything in this league. So I think I ended up with I got to check. I don't know. But whatever.
That's not promising.
I know I took Caleb Williams.
Okay.
And
Yeah, he could. There's a guy who could flash and
Yes.
give you something for sure.
and I don't know who else.
And also from following you on social media, it looks like a day on the golf course.
Yeah,
potentially
Saturday.
as well. That could be a draining experience if you're out in the hot sun on the course. So.
That was beautiful. We had
Yeah.
a great day Saturday. We went to Pine Hills down in Plymouth. You ever
Plymouth.
play there?
Haven't played there.
Beautiful.
That,
Two
of course,
courses.
I haven't golfed in a number of years. I
Really?
messed up my back when I was young. So
Sorry?
that kind of
Okay.
it's fine.
It-
I'm over it.
It was
But,
eight,
yeah, I haven't gotten to play it.
8 of us. We played twilight time,
Yeah.
so it was cheaper.
Oh, that's a great time to play
Yeah,
it.
teed off at 3:10 and 3:20, and it was myself, my wife, who's a golfer. She hits the ball really well. Her aunt and a good friend of mine, and then in the other foursome was my son and his wife, and then my daughter and her fiance. So we played 2 groups. Beautiful day.
Family outing.
The Jones course. There's a Nicholas and a Jones course. We played the Jones course, and it was fun. I shot a 43 in the front, and I don't know what I shot in the back because we were trying to finish so quickly.
Right.
We finished in the dark, basically. And my wife's yelling, Triple E, get out of here. So we had to leave.
Is Plymouth one of the communities where they found the mosquitoes?
Yes.
Oh, no.
So we hurried up in the car, but that was a great day. And then yesterday I went to my daughter's getting married next July. My son got married this past June.
Wow.
So we went to an antique show. She's looking for something to put in the centerpieces. And it was and I saw a great sign.
I remember that feeling of
It was I know,
trying
right?
to find the stuff that's going to be
Yes.
in the venue. Yes.
The barn at Todd Farm. And
Okay.
they have different signs up, and one of them was "Be curious, not judgmental." Ted Lasso.
There you go.
Kind of made my day. Yeah. So it was nice.
Good Ted Lasso is
Yep.
good. Are they bringing that back?
Yes. Season
Is
4.
there going to be a 4th season?
I'm not overly excited
Full
because I hope that they might have jumped the shark.
Right.
Right? 'Cause
They wrapped it up.
Yeah. I thought they wrapped it up beautifully too. So
I'm okay with things not going on and on
Yes.
and on just for the sake of, kind of having it come to an end and you put a nice bow on it, put a nice button on things.
Yep.
I don't know.
Oh, Joe Burrow was my other quarterback.
Okay. That might be okay. Well, we got a litany of guests today.
Yep.
And one of which is Mike Petralia, which we're here from at 8
Trags.
o'clock. Trags could tell you lots of things about Joe Burrow and
Yes.
how he may perform for your team. And
Think about
importantly,
that,
in
right?
the season opener
How
against the
great
Patriots.
is it? Like it's Monday, Labor Day.
Yeah.
And we're in a game week, right? Patriots open up their season Sunday. So again, I think you know me well enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're 0-0. Okay, if you want to kill them as you go.
Mm-hmm.
But this week,
There'll be some opportunity to kill him.
exactly.
yeah.
But this week, who knows? Like we haven't really seen it. You can't tell anything from preseason. You just can't. We know nothing about the running game, right? We really don't because they've been working on it a lot all through training camp. But you can't tell in a game at that point with what they're trying to do and what they're trying to scheme. And also, I don't know when we could talk about it, but we will.
Yeah.
I'll give you some hope as far as the quarterback position is concerned right away, and I'll tell you why. I spent a lot of time watching it and looking up numbers, and I think they're going to be okay to start.
All right. Some optimism to start the season here.
Surprising. Out of me.
Well, let's be real. It's not coming from a whole lot of places, right? As this season starts, if anything, maybe we're just kind of trying to approach things objectively. I'm here for that. We will be here till 10 a.m. This is the normal Toucher and Hardy slot with a twist. Sean Silver, Dan Roach. We are in and here to
in the
take,
Town Fair Tire Studios?
The Town
that
Fair
where we are?
Tire Studios. We're
Good.
going to be hearing from folks on the Volkswagen Dealers Expert Hotline. I've got to get all the
Yes,
all the,
you can
all
watch
the
us on
sponsors in,
YouTube,
right?
correct?
You can watch us on YouTube. You can call us up at 617-779-0985. I'm on Twitter at the Silver Fox, Silver with a Y. Dan is at Rochi WBZ.
Yep, ROCHIEWBZ.
There you go. We got Ryan Beaton. We got George Sepulveda here this morning.
And we're going to talk pool party because we're going to pick up the theme of Toucher and Hardy with Michael, Holly, and John and Hardy on Friday.
A Dan Roach pool party.
You're not going to like it. No.
No?
No.
No?
No.
What do you mean I'm not going to like it?
You're not going to like it. I'm telling you the songs I chose. I still haven't chosen which ones I like out of all of them.
You
but-
take your time and make some choices that are appropriate for you, and I'll tell you whether I like it or not. And I'm not a
Okay.
judgmental guy over
All
here.
right.
I probably will.
All right.
I would go to your pool party regardless of the music. It seemed like a fun
thanks.
time.
I don't know about that. But
Silver
thanks.
Roach, we're here till 10. Toucher and Hardy, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
The Sports Hub.
Did you catch a game last night?
All right, 98.5 The Sports Sub. Sean Silver, Dan Roach here on a Labor Day Monday morning with you at 617-779-0985. Oh, what happened last night? Well, I guess yesterday. We'll start in the daytime. We'll get into the night here. But the Red Sox, Dan, do you have are you calling it for this team? 4.5 out at the beginning of September?
I won't call it, but it's just about done.
They haven't been able to get any momentum going.
If they can get a buck and a half somewhere in there in the last 10 days a week, if they can get that close, then I'll say, okay, they have some chance. But right now, yesterday was a critical game for them, and it didn't go well.
Yeah, and it's kind of like if they can stack up series wins. You know, you don't even need to get on you don't need to win 8 in a row and get right back in the race, as the old the call went. If you can just stack up series wins. In Detroit, Cooper Criswell gets the nod. 4 perfect innings for him. And then, God bless Rich Hill. He makes it so I am not older than every major leaguer, which is great to kind of feel like, all right, it's not that bad. Rich Hill went out there in relief and met Spencer Torkelson, who's been on a tear since getting off the
Red Sox didn't lose any ground in the wild card standings yesterday. Swinging a drive out to left. Ref Snyder's backing up, turning around, and she is gone. And just like that, Detroit has the lead. Torkelson with his 8th home run of the season. Not the only hit they have.
Oh, yeah. It's just that's a tough one to swallow just because of how this game was going with Cooper Criswell.
Yep, Detroit's first hit of the game. The Tigers take the rubber match 4-1 here on a two-run home run there by Torkelson.
All right. So listen, I'm a huge, as everybody knows, Alex Cora fan.
Mm-hmm.
Have been, love him. I take him, Bruce Bochy, what he did in the World Series last year. I take what Cora did in 2018. Once you get into the postseason, orchestrating and what have you. I've taken a lot of grief over the years for just, backing up Alex through thick and thin.
Yeah.
This one, he made a mistake.
Right.
That's, I go back to Kevin Cash with the whole Blake Snell
in the
World Series. Kid's
right.
got a no-hitter going through 6 innings, and he pulls him because analytics tell him that the 3rd time through the lineup, you're going to get hit hard. This was one of those. They had 4 of 5 lefties coming up in the 5th inning. But Cooper Criswell is giving you everything you want. Mm-hmm. He looked, all you had to do was watch him, right? He threw 52 pitches, perfect innings.
Yep.
Struck out, 5, I think, along the way. And it was just, he was at everything working.
Yeah.
And you kind of overthought it, I think, if you're Alex, because he's been managing for his playoff life and the team's life for the last month to try to get them going into the postseason. I think he simply took a look at the numbers and the analytics and said, yes, this is what we should do, instead of looking at Cooper Criswell as a human being and saying, you're giving me everything you got, and it's good. It's really good today. You're only at 52 pitches. Let's at least give you one more inning. And if you want to get Rich Hill up in the 5th inning because there's 4 out of 5 lefties, fine. Mm-hmm. But let the kid just keep going until he doesn't show you anything but perfection, right? I mean, that's the tough part.
Yeah, and, you see it more and more, particularly with it's not even pitch counts necessarily. It used to be like pitch counts. We need to get that guy out of there at 90 or 100 or whatever.
Yeah,
now
it's 3rd time through the lineup.
Yeah, and, you see so many times where a guy's getting pulled when he's got a no-hitter going or got, in some cases, a perfect game going. I know I've seen it several times just this season. Alex Cora's justification here for pulling Criswell.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way we drew it up. They had a bunch of lefties. He gave us enough, and we went to Rich in that situation. We had a big pocket of lefties, so just the righty burn us.
So your hope in the beginning was for him to go forward, and then
the hope was to give us as many outs as possible, and then we take advantage of the matchups, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, it's Dan, I'm with you. I would say, other than Terry Francona, you have an argument that Alex Cora is the best Red Sox manager since World War II. I mean, we've seen a lot of great managers come through here. Jimmy Williams won a Manager of the Year. Obviously had Morgan Magic back in '88. There have been managers who've, whether it's Darryl Johnson or John McNamara or Dick Williams back in '67, you've had World Series appearances. Alex Cora, I think, checks a lot of the boxes for what you want here. There's a reason that they re-upped him. Just a simple, players make mistakes, managers make mistakes too, but it's tough when you're at this juncture of the season. You need to make some hay.
And yesterday was the game for you because you're trying to chase down the Tigers. Or stay above them. The Tigers are now half a game behind the Red Sox, who are out of the wild card chase right now.
They're getting hot.
The Twins and the Royals are both, they're 4.5 games behind those guys,
and not playing great either.
No, but you had to win yesterday for a lot of different reasons. The Tigers and the tiebreaker, but also just kind of keep the momentum going and into a big series starting tonight against the Mets. You had everything working for you. Cooper Criswell was doing what you wanted to do. Duran had a seeing eye single on probably the cheapest hit he's had all season. It just found a little hole, and you're up 1-0 and riding the momentum. And then I think it was Will Middlebrook said it, and maybe Lenny DiNardo said it too, is what happens in a game like that is, well, maybe I was listening to the broadcast on Sirius. I think I might have heard the Tigers guys saying that, A, you see the guy who's throwing a perfect game come out, and B, you see that home run, and that lifts your entire team and puts a little takes the air out of the opponent in that situation where you had every part of momentum riding your way going into that bottom of the fifth inning. And that's, to me, that's, again, which I love about Alex. He's very good on the human part of it. He's got a good feel for his players, a good feel for the situations, when to do things, when not to do things. That was one of those where I just think, and you heard him, he almost sounded robotic in his answer, right? Where he just kind of said, well, we had the matchups. This is what we planned coming in. You know what? That's not baseball. You can plan everything you want coming in, but I go back to Kevin Cash and Blake Snell. When a guy's pitching the game of his life, and now this is not as dramatic, but when Blake Snell was pitching the game of his life in the World Series, you're killing me by doing something like that, and you're taking so much momentum out of your team, out of that kid, and everything else in that situation.
There are times when the analytics road can take you where you should not go.
Thank you, Dave O'Brien.
Yeah.
But
Cooper Criswell might have been having the game of his life. And, Sox starters have been pretty good of late. The much maligned Red Sox starters have been pretty good, even without James Paxton, as expected in that rotation. The offense quiet, just 2 runs over the last 18 innings of play. After what was a spirited win, I would think, Friday night, right?
Yes. You're like, here we go.
But no, we haven't been able to go.
You face Skubal, who's going to win the Cy Young most likely, so you give him that one. But again, yesterday was the critical game, right?
A chance.
And again, you got your pitching lined up for this Mets series. The Mets are playing pretty well. They're fighting for their playoff lives. They're a game behind Atlanta for that third and final wild card spot in the NL. So you have this situation set up. You win yesterday, and you fly that momentum into New York with Brian Bayo on the mound tonight, who threw the game of the best game of his career last week against Toronto.
Good to see.
With 8 great innings. So now everything's there. And this one, I felt like this was we'll see what happens, but I felt like this was the nail in the coffin when it comes to this Red Sox team.
Yep. We'll keep an eye on the Sox, certainly, but it's tough to really feel a super amount of optimism there. Yeah, Dan, you were saying we're going to be optimistic about the Patriots because they haven't played yet, and we need to keep that up. But I think the Red Sox have kind of shown us what they are.
Hey, you sweep the Mets, though, anything can happen, Sean. That's the beauty of the game, my friend.
I'd love to get back to that June, July sort of optimism that we had about that team.
But they've lost 7 of 10.
They've had some moments, but they're starting to fade.
It's all about runs, too. And the other thing I was thinking about, too, it's about who you face, right? Yeah. The Tigers were 14-5, I think, coming into yesterday. So it's sometimes you face a team that's struggling, and sometimes you face a team that's red hot. It doesn't matter if you're in last place or first place. It's just the way the game goes. And now they're facing a Mets team that's won 7 of its last 10, is within a game of the Braves, so they're kind of rolling now too. So the Red Sox are in a funk, can't get out of it a little bit here, and then here you go. You're playing teams that are both red hot.
Yeah, it's going to be tough with the Mets. The Mets had an entertaining season as well, so hopefully it'll be an entertaining series. If the Red Sox, again, if they get 3 out of 4 even, I think you're feeling pretty good about that. We had some week 1, not week 0. We're past week 0, that weird, wonky week where it's like if we could play internationally or in international waters, I guess if you count Hawaii, it counts as a college football game. We're into week 1. There were some scintillating matchups for sure. Last night we had a matchup of two ranked teams, 23rd ranked USC, 13th ranked LSU. And Will Campbell, certainly somebody that folks have their eye on, as maybe the Pats could pick that guy up in next year's draft. The game went down to the wire, and USC scored late.
13 seconds left in the game. Moss with the snap. Hands off to Marks. Up the middle. Into the end zone. Touchdown! They're going wild in half of this stadium as the Trojans are going to pull off the upset. How do you do?
Pretty good outcome there if you're a USC fan. Also, you might say, some folks said the catch of the year. Did you see that catch?
Yes.
My gosh. We're seeing more and more. It's almost like, it's just a part of the wide receiver toolbox now, is the ability to make the great one-handed
insane
stab.
catches.
Yeah, it's like it used to be considered kind of a trick play. I remember when Odell Beckham made that snare probably, roughly 10 years ago for the Giants. And everyone was just like, oh, that's incredible. Now you see a few of those a season. But, I think a pretty good college football weekend. Nothing.
How do you do?
The one thing,
gotta love that.
I think you're noticing, right, the trend in college football is those pass catchers. And I think that's why when we talk about, I had my fantasy draft last night, I tried to go young in the wide receiver core and grab guys like Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze, because for whatever reason now is the wide receivers coming out look like they have all those tools in the toolbox, as you mentioned. I mean, it started with Gronk, right? When Gronk was playing, it seemed like college started getting bigger and bigger on the tight end position, better hands and everything else, maybe because of Gronk. And I don't know if it's just because what we've seen in the wide receiver position over the years prior, but they seem like they're getting better and better in the wide receiver ends of things. And you see plays like that last night. Last night was also interesting, too, in that you had Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels going 1-2 in the draft, both departed from those schools. So you had the kid Nussmeier and Moss. And, so I think that's what's cool about college football. It's just on and on they go.
And you always talk about, too, the fact that the college game is so different from the pro game in so many ways, particularly at, say, the quarterback position. That's something that we've had a magnifying glass on throughout the summer here. But for the receivers, pretty much the same skill set can be applied here. Those guys can kind of hit the ground running, and maybe that draft strategy is going to work out for you, Dan.
And there's nothing like an angry Brian Kelly, right?
Yeah, if you're Brian Kelly, not the best start to the college football
sitting here
season.
We're sitting here again talking about the same things, about not finishing when you have an opponent in a position to put them away. But what we're doing on the sideline is feeling like the game's over. And I'm so angry about it that I got to do something about it.
He's going to do so. Is that going to go down in the Denny Green annals? They pounded the podium.
Was that in the locker room afterwards, or was that at the presser, right?
I think that was at the presser.
No, I know, but it sounds like exactly what he would say when he walked into the locker room, right?
Again, we're sitting here again.
Trying to fire up the troops.
And I think he was one of the few college coaches, right, that had most of his players returning, right? Because now we've seen the turnover because of the portal. I think he was, trying to continue what he had, riding last year's, Jaden Daniels' team and everything else that was playing great down the stretch. And, he's got to be this morning waking up saying, gosh, again, what is it? Again?
We're sitting here again.
Where they start and they lose, right?
Not crippling now, the one loss with the 12-team playoff. So certainly an opportunity there for them to get their act together and get into the mix.
Well, good for that. I know we don't talk college football much here, in this market and what have you, but I've always been an advocate of the 32-team playoff because I go to the Division I AA from years ago when UMass won the national title. That's just so much fun. And I want to, if I had, I want to be baseball commissioner, or I'd like to be the commissioner or head of the NCAA football. Why? Because I'd have 5 different conferences with 14 to 16 teams in each. 5 giant super conferences. Just go east, southeast, midwest, southwest, west. And if you do that geographically, you can create 5 great conferences, and you can keep the Big Ten pretty much intact. You can keep the Pac-10 or Pac-12 or whatever it was intact, and the SEC, which drives the bus in college football, you can pretty much keep that intact too. And then in the East, you have going up and down the coast, the teams that you want to see: Syracuse, Boston College, UConn, Maryland, Rutgers. Then you could go Virginia Tech. You could all the way down to Miami. You know what I mean? And it would be great for college football, 2 divisions, and work out a playoff that way.
And geography. What a novel concept, really.
Now, it's a joke in the ACC that Boston College plays Cal Berkeley in a conference game. If you're a parent of a volleyball player or a tennis player, you're going to travel all the way to Cal Berkeley to watch your son or daughter play?
Yeah,
like, that's one aspect of it, which is a joke.
Makes absolutely no sense, other than, I guess, the opportunity to have a nice vacation on the West Coast, right?
Sorry I'm so fired up this morning.
No, hey, you could be fired up. That's something that definitely grinds my gears as well, the fact that we've just, we've taken a college sports system where geography and regional matchups meant something and just obliterated it for the almighty dollar. But, hey, that's where we're at. Speaking of almighty dollars, Scotty Scheffler, golfer of the year for 2024. No notes on this one, Dan.
One of the all-time seasons for Scotty Scheffler. Takes it all.
He wins the FedEx Cup, wins the Tour Championship, 7 wins on the season. Started earlier in the year, got arrested.
Right? How many guys can say that?
Bounced back from an arrest earlier in the year. I mean, Terry Glenn, he is not.
He won a gold medal?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's had an unbelievable year. Had a baby, which is just like he hit the jackpot this year.
Incredible year for Scotty Scheffler. So big win for him. $25 million for that.
He made $62.5 million on tour this year. I mean, they talk about the Live Tour and alluring players out with the prizes, so they had to up their prizes.
Yeah.
And Scheffler showed everyone how much money you can make in a single year, plus winning 7, including a major in the Masters and the Olympic gold medal. It was an interesting year to say the least. And like he said yesterday, I'm exhausted after what has been a long, long tour and season for Scotty Scheffler. But it's been cool to watch him from start to finish.
So he can kick his feet up for sure. Definitely, missing having the PGA at TPC as it was for many, many years. But we had the LPGA in town this time. Was that the first time that they've been down there?
Yes, and I think FM, the sponsor's coming back for next year.
Yeah,
so
I saw that.
A lot of enthusiasm for that, and I think people that went had a great time.
Yeah, my in-laws went. They're golf fans and enjoyed themselves. So certainly a nice opportunity there, and we'll see it again next year. So as we've been saying, it's been an eventful Labor Day weekend. That's just a smidge of what happened yesterday. It is the last weekend without football or pro football, so we'll be certainly getting into lots of Patriots talk here. We did want to stop and after the break here, hit on the tragedy that touched the NHL, the college hockey ranks, Boston, and of
I think it shocked the world too.
Yeah,
it's one of those. If you're a parent, especially of kids, it was heartbreaking what happened.
Yeah. So Johnny Gaudreau, his brother Matthew. Just senselessly lost their lives over the weekend. You were able to catch up with Jerry York, longtime legendary BC coach. We'll play some of that interview after this break here. Sean Silver, Dan Roach, 98.5 The Sportsub.
Sportsub headlines.
All right, back here on 98.5 The Sports Sub. It's the Toucher and Hardy Show this morning. You got me, Sean Silver, Dan Roach alongside of WBZ-TV. And tough to introduce this one, Dan. You know, I think it's something that, you know, we need to hit on. There's a local tie here. It's a story that nobody wants to see, but Johnny Gaudreau, his brother Matthew Gaudreau, they were at their sister's wedding this weekend.
Rehearsal dinner
night. Went out for a bike ride. Kind of in the twilight of the evening, I guess. However, a driver attempting to pass cars apparently, illegally on a 2-lane road.
So the police report
Yeah.
says that this driver, they were going from their rehearsal dinner to, I think, back to their parents' place or what have you.
Yeah.
And they were on a 2-lane road. It's anywhere you could pick anywhere for that. And there were 3 cars. And the alleged drunk driver was the 3rd car. Passes one car and then is trying to pass the next car, which was an SUV. And the SUV ahead of him pulls over into the middle lane a little bit.
Yep.
And what it was to make room for Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau, the two on their bicycles. And this alleged drunk driver probably got angry and said, "You're trying to cut me off. You're trying to block me." So he cut around inside on that SUV and hit both Johnny and Matthew and killed them, which is just, it was stunning news to the, like you said earlier, to the sports world, the hockey world, the every world,
If
the
you're a
Boston
person.
College world. Yes, if you're a human being, you can't help but there's so many factors in this story. You go from their sister Katie was getting married on Friday.
Right.
They canceled the wedding. They come home. The parents, the families are dealing with that. So basically you were at a wedding and all family and friends were there, and you suddenly went into a funeral from the way it was as a family. And now you just sit there and say, why? And again, drunk driving. It's pretty simple. How many times do people have to say it? Uber is the easiest thing in the world now, to just call an Uber or have somebody call you an Uber. Don't drink and drive. It's the biggest thing probably as a society that is now the easiest thing that you can avoid after hearing it year after year and seeing all these stories and all these horrible things that happen to these innocent families because of a drunk driver.
Yeah, who knows what sort of decision would have been made had the driver not, allegedly been impaired here. But certainly Johnny Gaudreau, a part of the fabric of Boston based on his time here at BC. Hobie Baker winner, national champion. He had something like 80 points.
80 points in 40 games his 3rd year, and he stayed for a 3rd year. So as a freshman, he won a national championship with a group of Kevin Hayes and, really good players. And I was in a trolley parading around the campus of Boston College after they won the national championship. They came home and had a little parade for them on campus.
Yeah.
It was fun, and it was just a joyous time. And to see Johnny at that time, he's just a kid. He's a freshman and everything else, had that little boy smile. Still has it now, but Johnny Manziel was so popular with Johnny football, and everybody was calling Johnny Gaudreau Johnny Hockey. And then the other part was he was supposed to go to Northeastern. Johnny was supposed to go, and the head coach there, Greg Cronin, left just before he got there to go to Toronto and be a head coach in the NHL. So Johnny decided at the last minute to transfer. It said to his brother Matthew, who was 2 years younger than him, "Where do you want to go?" And he had said Boston College. So they went to BC, and he could have left after his sophomore year. There was a lot of pressure on him to go to the NHL because he was so good.
Right.
And he said I want to stay here and play a year with my brother Matthew, which they did. And Matthew was a good player too, and Matthew did become a head coach. He just started coaching their old high school team, I believe, or a part of it. And, again, just a tragedy. And we all know what Johnny Gaudreau did at BC, but also in the NHL for Calgary and, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Just a great player, and from what everyone says and what I remember, smile on his face, happy, just a good kid. So it was a tragedy.
Yeah. You managed to catch up, actually, with Jerry York, the legend.
Who coached
behind the bench at BC. We actually have some sound from talking with Jerry York.
Jerry, just more importantly, it's a sad day for the BC family, the hockey family, but as young men, what were both of these gentlemen like?
Yeah, that's the most important thing, because, Johnny's getting so much publicity, and the tragic all over the news, national news, but Matty was, 2 sons, and to lose both sons, and we're both parents. I mean, this is a really hard, difficult. And then they were there to celebrate the youngest sister's wedding, which is today. I just can't put it together. It's just, but they were such a joy to coach. They really were. And, each coach wants to have the best practice today, and they'd make it a best practice because they just step on the ice and they're so creative and so full of energy. We miss them, unbelievable. I can't explain it.
As a coach, you're almost like a dad with these guys at that age and everything else. What were they both like? How did you handle them? Because you handle each and every player differently, right?
Yeah, but they were special. I mean, they were just small little guys when they came. I think probably each weighed 135 pounds, but when they got on the ice, their creativeness was, especially Johnny, world class. But the dad was a terrific player. Guy, I keep calling him Guy, but at Norwich, and he raised 2 terrific sons. And I remember Johnny getting on the plane in Calgary after the Frozen Four in Philly. I think it was 14, and Calgary was flying right to Calgary. And Jane, the mom, was there with me. And she, John, you got to get your degree. And she forced him. So after about 4 or 5 years, he got his degree, and it made her so happy, Jane.
I think Jimmy Montgomery just said he coached him at the USHL, and he said Johnny had to go to the doctors because he ate too much Nutella and was constipated and had issues. Did he have that sweet tooth here at BC?
Oh, his diet was just incredible. But he grew up on Skittles because the only way that Dad ran a rink in South Jersey that he could get him to skate, get him off his feet, was throw a Skittle out, and he'd get up and skate to the Skittle and throw another Skittle out. And so that's how he became a skater.
Do you have any favorite stories of either one of them, either in practice, off the ice, during a big game, during a national championship run?
I think when Johnny came in, we had Kevin Hayes, sophomore, Chris Kreider, Tommy Cross. We had some really unbelievable top-end players, and they had heard so much about this young Johnny Gaudreau. He walks in, he's like 5'6", 140, and just quietly sits down on the side. And I'm big Kevin Hayes looking and says, "Coach, is this the guy he's talking about?" And then the first time he goes to the ice, "Oh, thanks for recruiting him." He said, "We're going to be better already."
Yeah, I mean, Johnny was just a dynamic hockey player. What made him so special?
Well, you think back in college hockey, and I think of Paul Creer. I think that's a comparable. They just had a great feel, like maybe a point guard in basketball, where everybody is, and they can make those passes, Larry Birdish behind the back to people that you just don't see. But that is probably the most unique part of.
And lastly, being on a trolley, going around the campus after you guys won the national championship. We looked at that footage today. I think when I think both of them, I think the word, you said it earlier, the word joy.
Yeah.
Those teams, they just seem to just love the game, love each other, and have that. What's that like to watch as a head coach?
Oh, it's like, well, I'm so glad we recruited these type of players, but it's just fun to watch. It elevates everything, and even in practice, Greg Brown and Mike Cavanaugh were my assistants then, and they'd turn and look at me. "What did he just do there?" I said, "I'm not quite sure, but it's in the net."
And lastly, this is the tough part of being a second father to these guys, right? This has got to be. You've had some tough times in the hockey family recently too.
Yeah, with Tony Vos passing away with a heart attack, and Jimmy Hayes dying suddenly of, a pill situation, and it's hard. It really is. And for all the joy we get from it, we also share sorrow, and that's part of living life, I guess.
Jerry, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, you heard Dan there with legendary Boston College hockey coach Jerry York. Really tough to, wrap this story, I guess. It's something I think that's going to linger in a lot of fans' minds, or just, again, this is something that affects people. It was nice of Jerry to mention Matthew Gaudreau's contributions, because obviously the name on the marquee is his brother for all the accolades, but 2 lives were lost here. Also some of the lighthearted moments, kind of brought a smile or a chuckle to both of our faces, but, really, Really, really tough to put any sort of shine on.
It's going to take a
this sort of
long
event.
time for it
Yeah.
to sink in. You know what I mean? The Columbus Blue Jackets and their training camp starts, next week, and just
got to get back to
what
business.
that's going to
as
be
weird
like.
as that sounds.
Yeah, and I was talking to Greg
geez.
Brown, the current head coach now at BC, and he was saying the players were just on the ice the day before this happened, and they said there was such an enthusiasm, such a happiness for them to be back skating after losing in the championship game to Denver last year. So, there's so much joy, and then something like this happens, and again, it's senseless. It's going to take a long time to settle in, and unfortunately, there's two young kids, Johnny and Matthew's wife was expecting as well. So it's just a long time, but the hockey family, as you know, Sean, is just as good a family as you'll ever be around. There'll be support for them, but nothing will be the same in their lives.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Dan. But absolutely, that's really the story of the weekend. And as I was going off to frolic and have fun with my family, remember that news kind of rolling into my phone and just going, oh, geez, wow, that's really makes you feel fortunate for what you have.
Yep.
And it's important to kind of try and wake up on the right side of the bed if you can, and count your blessings. So. That's where we'll leave it on Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau. Obviously, their memories stay strong with us here in Boston for all the things that they accomplished in their young lives.
And now we can kind of go the other way.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk some pool party
yes.
music, right?
Yes.
Much like the gang did on Friday.
We'll try to lighten the mood with some pool party music because it is Labor Day weekend. It is still the weekend, though we are laboring.
Yes,
but we'll get some Sportsub headlines coming up here. And Dan and I will divulge our pool party lists as well. We'll talk some pads, talk some socks, plenty on the table. Of course, we'd love to hear from you. Coming up here on 98.5 The Sports Up. Boston Red Sox will be taking on the Mets in Queens this evening. Their series against the Tigers did not go according to plan as they dropped 2 of 3, including a 4-1 decision yesterday. Rich Hill takes the loss after Spencer Torkelson hit a 2-run homer off of him in the 5th inning in relief of Cooper Criswell. Elsewhere in the AL East, the Yankees' lead is down to a half a game over the Orioles. They lose 14-7 to the Cardinals. The aforementioned Baltimore team 6-1 winners over the Rockies yesterday. In college football, 23rd ranked USC beat number 13 LSU 27-20 in the last minute of play. Boston College will play this evening, taking on 10th ranked Florida State. Scotty Scheffler, your FedEx Cup champion, with a 4-shot win over Colin Morikawa. 7 tournament wins on the season for Scheffler. And Heiron Yu, the winner of the LPGA's FM Championship, which was competed at TPC Boston over the weekend. Your Sports Up headlines are brought to you by Valvoline Instant Oil Change. Enjoy quick and convenient vehicle maintenance this month. Visit NewEnglandOilChange.com for 15% off your drive-through oil change at Valvoline Instant Oil Change, now open in Weymouth, Canton, Bedford, and Natick. I'm Sean Silver, Boston's Over Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Next update, 30 minutes.
Let's talk turkey, shall we?
Blah, 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 blah.
Oh, in the sports industry, that's what you say.
Got your talking head right here, buddy.
98.5 The Sports Hub. In the office, in your car, in your footy pajamas, this is how Boston sports fans start their day.
I bet you're just jealous.
Toucher and Hardy on 98.5.
The Sports Hub. It's the Toucher and Hardy program. It's Labor Day, so, guys are getting their beauty sleeps, hopefully. Maybe they've had a raucous weekend. I don't know. Maybe they spent some time at a pool party. Sean Silver and Dan Roach here from WBZ TV. I am not from WBZ. I'm just your friendly neighborhood Silver Fox who fills in on days like this.
What do you do in your life?
What do I do? What do you mean?
Every day.
Like my job?
Yeah.
I work for the Commonwealth Department of Environmental Protection.
Oh, you're one of those people?
What is that?
Did you get your pension yet?
No, I'm not quite there yet. No.
One another year. Then you're done, and you just go do random work elsewhere.
I'm 41, Dan. I mean, there's a ways to go here, but yeah, no.
My tax money goes to you.
Jeez. Yes, like the guy in Take the Money and Run by Steve Miller Band. I make my living off of other people's taxes.
I'm just kidding.
No, it's a good gig. I feel like in ways I am doing good work for the environment of Massachusetts. So
awesome. So thank you.
You can thank me for that.
Yep.
But when it's Labor Day, state employees otherwise get some time off.
Pool parties
and pool
barbecue.
Parties. I spent some time in a pool this weekend. It was my friend's pool, not my own. We do not have a pool. Dan, you spent your time on a golf course. Were you near a pool this weekend?
No, closest probably was Pine Hills has a lot of houses, and the ocean was right a stone's throw away. So that was as close as I came, probably to a pool. But
wonder if any of those houses have infinity pools.
Oh,
the
beautiful ones.
Yeah, you kind of look right out. And I went in one of those once in Puerto Rico. My wife, for her job, occasionally has to travel to Puerto Rico. What a terrible place to have to travel. So one time I went along with her, and they had an infinity pool at the hotel.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, but again, it's more function over form at this point in my life. Again, you understand when you have 2 kids this age, several years apart, it's going to the beach. It's like it's just going to occupy the kids for hours. It's going to be great, It doesn't matter what my opinion of the beach is, whether or not I like having sand in my food or any of the other things. It's just the fact that it's going to be good for the kids. That makes it all right. Same with the pool. I could take or leave a pool. It's fun. It's a good time. But the kids love it. So
kids really do.
They could spend all day in a pool.
So if you're going to have a pool party today, let's be theoretical here.
Mm-hmm.
On Friday, I heard Hardy, John Wallach, and Michael Hawley come up with pool party songs, right? So the guys here, Ryan and George, said, "Why don't you guys come up with a pool party song?" So playing off what they did, Michael, I'll go Wallach was Party Rock, Steal My Sunshine, and Let's Go Dancing by Kool and the Gang.
I'm good with Steal My Sunshine and Let's Go Dancing. I feel like Steal My Sunshine is kind of an underrated
corny,
summer of '99 jam.
Right?
There.
You have to be corny.
You have to be
for
corny
a pool party.
for a pool party.
When you're a host, because you're wearing a Hawaiian shirt and you're barbecuing, you're cooking at the grill, so you got to be corny if you're hosting a party. Michael Hawley went with September. You can't go wrong with that.
Nice.
Earth, Wind, and Fire. Reaching
there.
Too Much and Bonita Applebum.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Old Tribe Called Quest.
Yes.
It's a
and
good
then
jam right there.
Hardy, I loved his selections. He went Freedom by George Michael, which is great. And then the Gap Band, You Dropped a Bomb on Me, which is awesome. And it's a great wedding song, too. And then Stevie Wonder, We Can Work It Out. The version he played was like a live version or something. It was just really well done. Nice. Beautiful. It was perfect, the perfect song. So you and I came up with 3.
Yeah.
And we're going to play our 3 and see just how bad they are, because mine are really bad.
Dan, how hard did you think about this? Because I came in this morning and George goes, "Oh, Dan gave me his 8." I thought about it in the car. I was just like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about the pool party playlist." Let me think.
As you can see, Sean, preparation is everything in my life.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, usually, for me too. I'm that sort of person. If I'm hosting like a 3-hour weekend show, I prepare for like 6 hours.
Right.
Just like what my wife's like, "What are you doing up at like 4 in the morning?" It's, I'm preparing. But for this, not very prepared. So I hope that my picks don't come across as crappy because they're not terribly well thought out. But we'll see.
All right. So why don't you give your third? We'll go order of 3, 2, 1. Why don't you give your third? If you're having a party, you got everybody over, you get the beers and the sodas are flowing and the burgers are cooking on the grill and the what have you. So go ahead, give me your third song.
Okay. Well, as a college radio DJ, I used to pride myself on putting together good mixes, good mix tapes, good mix CDs. And I feel like a band that, again, as the college radio DJ always found their way in was the Replacements. Now, the Replacements mean a lot of things to a lot of people, but I was thinking of a particularly jaunty song by them called Alex Chilton. You're walking into Sean's pool party. We got this going on. Everybody's kind of in a good mood,
That works, yeah. And what are you cooking? What's your selection of barbecue food?
I am no master of the grill.
Yep.
My dad got me like a King of the BBQ shirt.
Nice. You're wearing that, right?
Maybe I'm wearing that, but it's not actually true.
Oh, okay.
It's not actually true. It's just burgers and dogs.
All right, I'm cooking burgers, dogs, steak tips.
Okay.
That chicken, marinated chicken, I got it all going on the grill.
Oh, see,
I don't mind doing that.
When you get the chicken going, I'm worried about it being too dry.
Come
again,
on. But I'm constantly cutting it, so you're gonna get little pieces because I'm constantly cutting it to check.
Okay.
To check inside. Inside. Is it done? It's done, and then go.
So you're not worried about the appearance here. We're just
No, I'm worried about the cooking, how it temperature and what it's at.
Function over form.
Okay, so my first song, I had to do this because I have this was part of my playlist that I drove to Cooperstown a couple of years ago for David Ortiz's induction ceremony, and this was on my list. So it's kind of corny, but I don't really care. So go ahead.
Oh, come on,
Right?
yeah. It's like we're at a Cape League game.
There you go.
In between innings, we're at Red Wilson Field, my home field. Got my hat.
Love it. YD.
This is my YD hat, Dan, from the camp I attended in 1993.
Really? Did you get the burger with the glazed donut over it, or whatever the sandwich that they make now?
The hurler?
Yeah.
I think they call it.
See, I'd be at Chatham. The grill's cooking on the right side by the concession stand, and the burgers and dogs are cranking. I go out and grab a dog or a burger, cheeseburger. Cheeseburgers were great this year, by the way.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I had one of those when I was on vacation down there.
I was going to say, how many games you make it to, roughly?
This year, only about 5 or 6
Handful,
on vacation, and it was just, we start, if there's a game in Chatham, we go to Chatham, and then we branch off. If there's no game in Chatham, we look. Harwich, we'll go to Harwich. Harwich, no. Orleans, check. If not, Brewster. So we kind of have a little circle around there of those teams, and we go from there.
I've always been a Cape League Eastern Division fan over Western Division.
Yep.
Just for the ballparks. I haven't even been to all of the fields. I'm trying to think of which one. I haven't been to Bourne. I haven't been to Falmouth. I have been to Catuit, Hyannis, and Wareham.
Right. I said to my wife, if I lived in Plymouth, if we were at Pine Hills over the weekend, I would be an East fan. right?
Yeah.
I would go to Bourne, Wareham, like you said.
Go Filler Field.
Hyannis, Falmouth, those would be my teams.
Yeah.
But I'm a West Coast guy, so I like that area of teams.
Yeah.
It's where the stars of tomorrow shine tonight.
The Lower Cape, as they say.
Yes. Yeah. All right, what's your number 2?
My number 2, well, I was kind of thinking of different vibes and, maybe changing it up a little bit, but also trying to be fun. And I was thinking about some early 90s R&B, maybe not like Wallach version, like the New Jack Swing.
Yeah.
But maybe some girl groups, maybe a little En Vogue.
Everybody happy?
Right?
Keep everybody happy.
Yeah. I mean, and the best part of the song is, it's like, and now it's time for a breakdown. Just the harmonies here.
It's spatula flipping at the grill. I think grill, right? So you're kind of all over.
Again, I'm burgers and dogs. There's nothing fancy at my grill.
Yep.
But if I got this song on, I'm dancing around. I'm flipping the spatula a little bit.
Jeez.
Yeah. I'm feeling myself.
Yeah, I like that one.
All right, there we go.
I went with one because my daughter suggested this one, so I gave it to her because of the theme that it is. It has to be in the middle of the summer, so go ahead. What are we having now?
Oh, no.
Yes. This is to aggravate Hardy. What do we have?
Everybody's feeling sexy.
Yeah. So it could have been that. It could have been Summertime by Kenny Chesney.
Sure.
Could have been. I actually almost went with Take Me Out to the Ball Game by Jimmy Buffett, which is a little different version. I think he recorded it in Boston. So
R.I.P. Jimmy Buffett.
Too. So.
He did you know that he wrote Fins while he was holed up in a hotel here in Boston in the middle of the winter?
No.
Or not? Was it not Fins?
I thought it was at the Hard Rock Cafe Stadium.
No.
Right?
Yes.
Fins
right.
to the left, fins to the right. Dolphins.
No, he wrote.
Come on, John.
What's this
2.
morning? I shot 6 holes in my freezer. That song. I think I got cabin fever.
Oh, okay.
That's
a little more appropriate than Fins to the left.
What the heck is that song? Anyways, he wrote it because he was miserable in February in Boston.
Really?
So he was writing a song about having cabin fever
gotcha.
and needing to I got to go where it's
That's
warm.
when you need the pool party.
Boat drinks, I think, might have been the song.
Oh, gotcha.
There we go.
All right, so now number 1. This is an awful list for both of us, by the way, or at least for me. Go ahead.
I was going to say, such
No.
judgment here.
Yours is good.
Mine is going with, so I'm a Van Halen appreciator.
Okay.
David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar, no judgment. I did go to the Sammy Hagar concert this summer, and it was great. He played all the Van Halen tunes. It was kind of like a tribute to Eddie Van Halen, who passed several years prior. But I'm taking a nice, full of keyboards song off of OU 812 that just makes me feel happy. Feels so good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, you got the the synthesizer is going.
Like somebody just ran and jumped into the pool, cannonball.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. Dan is setting the scene, really. He's just like, it's like an audiobook of a pool party coming at Dan.
There's a trash barrel full of Buds and Bud Lights right next to you, right?
Oh, man. I went to, where the heck was I? I was at a restaurant recently, and they had, like, the beer list.
Yep.
And it was... And it was like, here's this beer. It's from this brewery, located here. And this type of beer is from this brewery located here. Very detailed, right? And then there was a section of, it was like light beers, dark beers, sour beers. And it was like, because we have to. And it was like Bud Light,
yes,
St. Louis, Missouri. And it was like style, alcoholic water.
Tell you, though, one of the beautiful things about baseball in St. Louis is when they bring the Clydesdales out. And they play that song. Da, 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 da. It was great.
That was a stadium too, Dan, where it was like I don't even know particularly why I liked it so much. It just felt good.
Yes.
The fans I sat with
100%
super
agree.
nice.
Everybody's nice out there.
Yeah.
Just fantastic. Except you feel like you flash back to the 70s when you stay in a hotel because it still has cigarette smoke everywhere. It just feels like everyone in St. Louis smokes at some point.
It's lawless.
Right? Yeah, so I had all these choices, and I had the corny ones. I could have went, Pharrell, Happy, right? Because, just by walking. But you have to be walking, though. Like, you can't really.
Strutting around the pool with your apron on
kind of
and
tough,
your
though,
spatula.
Because, you need open air, I think, more so in that one. It could have went Soak Up the Sun by Sheryl Crow. It would have been a fun pool song. Kid Rock all summer long. So those kind of things. So I went with this one just to piss off Hardy.
Oh, yeah. Come on now.
I flies away. My head like, yeah. Moving my head like, yeah.
Oh, this is a good one. I can let loose to party in the USA.
Right, Hardy's like
great pick.
So bad right now.
I might be kind of on the fence about Rascal Flatts, but there's one I can endorse right there.
Okay, good. All right.
I like that. I'm seeing George in the chat right now on YouTube. He threw out one that I briefly considered. R.I.P. Rich Cronin, the Boston-based boy band, LFO.
Yeah.
Light Funky Ones.
Yeah.
Summer Girls.
Oh.
He's rapping about all these different things. The great Larry Bird jersey, 33. He's throwing out, little references.
Awesome.
I see also This Is How We Do It by Montel Jordan
That's an easy
in
one.
George's playlist there.
Can't go wrong. That was a good, George.
Yeah. No, I think I might want to go to George's party too. Dan, your party. I mean, you're there styling and profiling, as Ric Flair would say, at the grill.
Yeah.
So
the ball game's on somewhere.
Yeah.
TV's everywhere.
We got some Fogarty. It sounds like a very good time. I don't know how you feel about my party. The food might be subpar.
No, I think burgers and dogs, you can't go wrong.
The beer selection would be solid. I'll tell you. I'll get some nice stuff there for those who enjoy their suds, and even some Bud Light or Coors Light.
And they're gonna go with the Napolitano hood ice
Hoodsy?
cream bars afterwards. No, the I like the ones with the chocolate shell, and then it has the chocolate strawberry and vanilla inside it.
Ooh.
You used to get those at the ball game.
Do you get that as an ice cream bar?
Yeah.
What ball game is this? What fancy place is this? You can get those at Fenway?
Yeah.
Wow. I wonder how much it costs nowadays.
$42.50 for you.
All right, so there's the pool party. I'm sure there will be some comments about this, something negative directed in our direction, and long after we leave here, and that's okay. The victors write the history books. We're just the guys filling in here on Labor Day. So there it is. There's Summer Girls, Dan.
There you go. Good.
For your listening pleasure.
All right, crank it up as we go to break.
There it is. Sean Silver, Dan Roach, 98.5 The Sportsub. Back in a few. We'll talk some Pats.
More Toucher and Hardy on the way.
Let's go. Let's ride.
98.5.
Like, let's roll the dice.
Sportsub.
Speaking of songs, Dan, this lead-in right here, this Oasis song, would be potentially my walk-up music.
Really?
Coming to the ring if I was a pro wrestler or coming to at bat. This just gets me fired up.
Huge deal with them returning, huh?
Oasis back together.
Yeah.
You know, and I was mentioning Van Halen right in the previous segment, and you know, the Van Halen brothers were always in concert, right? They were always together. They were half of the band, and then everybody else who was in Van Halen had to deal with them. They made the decisions.
Yeah.
They had the name on the marquee, right? But with Oasis, you have warring factions. But again, it shows the almighty dollar.
Yes. We need money. Go ahead.
Can we make some money off of this? Then fine.
They're gonna make a little bit of money too. Well, I think Fred was saying they sold out Wembley like 5. They're doing 5 shows at Wembley. Wow.
Yeah, that's. But you know, as much as you may or may not, you know, your mileage may vary on Oasis as a band. I think that's a pretty cool song. Have you ever thought of like what would my walk-up music be?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of one of those constants that's always out there, and it would change from time to time.
Yeah.
Just depends on what song's on your head, what you're looking for. I'd be a superstitious ball player too. You know, Wade Boggs took ground balls at the same time every single day, ate chicken every single day, ate at the same time, did everything at the same. Like he would not cross over the first baseline, would touch the third baseline. He had all these superstitions.
Yeah,
I'd be a superstitious guy. Same shirt. If I had 3 hits. Dwight Evans tells a story in his new book, Dewey, that
his new book.
Yep.
Nice.
That he went out.
I would love to read that.
Yankee Stadium with a nice suit, walk into the ballpark, and a bird pooped on him. And
that's a superstition for some.
He went like 4 for 4, had the game of his life. So the next day he took his suit, put his suit on, and walked all over the place trying to get a bird to poop on him. It didn't happen. He went over.
Go to a park somewhere, Dewey. Just anywhere with a fountain.
Those are the superstitions. You know?
Oh man, it's crazy.
Yes,
it's crazy. You know, U.S. Open going on this weekend as well out in
Coco Gauff.
She's out.
See what she did? She had like 18 double faults and like 11 in the last set. It was painful to watch.
It's tough.
You know, and I was saying to my wife, these tennis players, I feel like they have a lot on them these days. You know what I mean? The mental part of the game is really tough for a lot of them. It just, you hear some of the things with depression and what have you, and it's just really hard living as a tennis player because I think so much pressure is put on them from when they're kids to all the way through. And it was just like, one of those things. It was almost like Tin Cup. You know what I mean? Where you're just watching her over and over double faults. And then as she's leaving, like you could just tell she's trying to keep a stoic face, but she had to be in tears when she left and, you know, exits the U.S. Open because she does something that she never normally does. Right.
Yeah.
So now that's on her mind. No matter next time she takes the tennis court and everything else.
Am I going to double fault again?
Yeah.
And you mentioned Tin Cup. It is a lot like golf. It's a very mental game. You know, you get so many reps doing those things, but it really is a game of inches, and you're trying to, you know, play this game with such immense precision. I've always wanted to get out to the U.S. Open, but never have. I don't really have an excuse.
I know a lot of people that have,
not having gone
and love it.
I would like to get out.
Everyone
there.
says it's tremendous take. Scott Sullivan, I used to work with the WBZ.
Yeah,
Sully goes. He used to go all the time. Friends who own City Sports. Remember City Sports with the T-shirts and everything?
For sure, yeah.
They used to
I got
go.
mine.
My wife used to work for them. They used to go all the time. It was just like, and everybody goes, just raves about how it's not even like center court. It's just going from match to match to match.
I'm here for that,
play,
1,000%. So, you know, down the Cape they have Willow Bend.
Yes, they used to have that.
They
right?
used to have the Masters would come down, so you could see like Bjorn Borg and Jimmy Connors and, you know, all those guys. I went when I was a kid. I was big into tennis. You know, didn't play like well into my life, but played in high school. You know, 6'4" kid. Like, okay, you can. What sports can you play when you're 6'4" and kind of gangly? Sure, tennis. But you know, I just used to love the fact that you could watch them warming up on a practice court, or you could just go over here. You know, like on a big, it's similar to a golf tournament. The fact that you can just kind of follow somebody that you want to see that day.
A lot of people say when they go to a golf tournament, they want to go to the practice rounds.
Yeah,
because that's more fun. Because it's better. It's a suited for TV golf, and it's much better time just following a guy around on a day. One of the fun times I had was Michael Early and I went to in 2020 when there was COVID. Went to the TPC in Norton when they had the event, and so just media was allowed. And we walked 18 holes the first round with Tiger Woods.
Wow.
So how many chances do you get that? And literally by the time we were like to the 15th hole, he's looking at us like, who the hell are these two guys? Right? Because there was nobody there except his entourage. There was people, his swing coach and all those people, his agent, everything was watching him, and then us. And it was awesome. So I get to watch the greatest golfer in probably the history of the game play around at the TPC in Norton.
That's amazing. That is so cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know you did that.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I obviously when the Open came to Brookline, that was cool. Going to the TPC a few times. I remember
the Ryder Cup was awesome.
The year Rory won it. Oh, you're talking 99?
1999.
Oh. Yeah, I mean those are you talk about like different experiences. Obviously, you've had many sports related experiences over the years. You could really write a book about some of the places that you just kind of the time and place. The time was ripe and. Suddenly you're at the 99 Ryder Cup in Brookline, and it's an all-time sports moment.
Did that just happen?
Yeah. Wow.
It was awesome, and I played that course a ton, getting ready for it. In fact, the BZ Radio, the AM, flew us out. Myself and Steve Diossi flew us out to the PGA Championship a month before to get a feel for what the Ryder Cup would be like. And Steve and I got there on a Tuesday. Wednesday, we went to a practice round and got interviews and everything else. And then I drove as quickly as I could to watch Randy Johnson face the Cubs at Wrigley and see a game at Wrigley. And then covered the tournament out there, and it was Tiger versus Garcia, Sergio Garcia. They had a great duel on that Sunday. And then Monday, there's a lottery and things like that for the media to be able to play the course. And Diossi went up to the starter and said, hey, here's a box of cigars. Do you see my Super Bowl ring? Next thing I know, we're teeing off on the 16th hole on a scramble, and we played the course. It was awesome. Awesome stuff.
It's who you know. Wow,
Yes.
That's really cool. That's really cool. But, yeah, U.S. Open is a bucket list thing for me. Very attainable. I don't know why the years keep going by where I haven't punched my ticket, but maybe one of these years.
It's like Fred gets on me every year because I always say I want to see the Harvard-Yale football game.
Yeah.
It's like, for crying out loud, I work. I can see the stadium from out the window.
It's really not that hard to go to Harvard-Yale. It's
I just never had the
right
time,
there. The tickets aren't exactly restrictive.
There was always something going on that Saturday with my kids or something that we're covering. I'm working. It's just like I never – and that's still on my bucket list is the Harvard-Yale game.
Yeah. Hopefully you'll cross that one off.
There you go.
Yeah. Will it be this year?
I don't know.
This year?
I hope so.
All right. Let's start looking into that, Dan.
Okay.
I'm gonna ride you about this. I'm really gonna be on you about
Text
it
me once in a
for
while.
the next couple of months.
Get the ticket yet?
Yeah, exactly. I'll be that guy. I want you to live your dream.
Thank you.
617-779-0985. Sean Silver, Dan Roach, here on the Sports I've been for Toucher and Hardy.
Sportsub headlines.
All right, the Reds.
And I have had many offers becoming insider.
They're pool party tunes that they might want to play at a pool party. We already gave you ours at the top of the hour. I'm sure you can find those in podcast form or something out there. Harvard meets Yale in Boston, November 23rd at 12 noon, says Randall in the chat.
Oh, thank you, Randall.
There you go. November 23rd.
That's right around Thanksgiving, so you got to keep that in mind.
Tickets, yeah.
You know? Thank you very much.
This hour, Toucher and Hardy, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every get it right. Make every moment more. That's a lot of M's. There's a lot of alliteration there. Make every moment more with FanDuel. We are charging into week one here, Dan. What do you got? What do you got?
So Mike Reese wrote the other day wrote a really nice story on Jacoby Brissett and his journey to where he is right now, returning where he came from in 2016 when he, during Deflategate got the start and then the win against Buffalo and was with Jimmy G and what have you. Now he's all the way full circle back, starting as the Patriots quarterback. So over the weekend, I went and looked at some things, and one of them was a look at Jacoby Brissett last year, right? Because that's kind of how good is he? How good can he be for this team? Everyone's saying he's a mentor to Drake May, but he was also a mentor last year to Sam Howell with the Washington Redskins. And he got 2 games where he basically came in and nearly helped them pull off an upset. So I went and watched those games and what he did. One of them was, and I think it's week 15, week 16, depending upon the bye weeks and everything like that. But they played against the LA Rams, and Jacoby came in and had 2 drives. So they were down when he came in 28-7. And if you look at what he was able to do and you watch the film of what he was able to do, if they can get that Jacoby Brissett, I think Patriots fans will be pretty happy. He was quick to throw the ball. He was quick, decisive decision-making. The only problem they had was they had McLaurin, the kid from the Redskins, who's a number 1 type of receiver.
Well, that's right? Probably a big help there, right?
But he used everybody. It just wasn't him. You know what I mean? It was Dotson, the kid that they traded. It was Curtis Samuel, who's now with Buffalo.
Who's also moved on.
Yeah, so he was firm in his decision-making, and he looked good. And he threw in 2 drives. He threw a touchdown pass to McLaurin, 29 yards into the end zone. And then he threw a touchdown pass for 5 yards to Curtis Samuel and brought them back. And they ended up losing 28-20 in that game. And then the following week, he came in relief again, and he had 2 more drives where he brought them back again. And it was against the Jets on Christmas Eve. And he threw a touchdown pass to Logan Thomas to cut it to 27-14. And then after a turnover by the Jets, he actually gave them the lead with Chris Rodriguez ended up scoring a 1-yard touchdown, but he had some big throws to different players, John Bates to Dotson, to Bates, to McLaurin. So he moved the ball and threw the ball, and they actually took a lead with 2 minutes to go in that game. And the Jets came back and won it on a late field goal. But everything about him, he looked good. Like he just looked like he was ready for the role. And I think people have dismissed that because we only saw him take, 27 snaps, I think, total in the 3 preseason games. So we really haven't seen much from him. And now just kind of the offensive line is certainly the biggest question. Vidarian Lowe and City So, both, we'll see if they're at practice today, both banged up. They went and got some help off the waiver wire. But I think the one thing, if you're going to watch the opener, give it a chance and see what happens with the run game, see what happens with Van Pelt in that offense, and see what happens with Brissett. And I think Patriots fans will be a little surprised at just how good he can look as a starting quarterback.
Well, right, he's competent. And I feel like it's, kind of unfair that everyone is just dismissing that fact that this man has put together a, competent NFL career. He's a pro's pro, to use all the cliches, right? But I feel like in preseason and in training camp, we put so much into samples.
Yes.
Even just the, throwing without pads. And it's like so-and-so was, 5 of 10 and so-and-so was 7 out of 10. And it's like all of a sudden the sky is falling for the guy who was 5 out of 10, but the guy who was 7 out of 10 is looking great. And it's just like, that's a difference of 2 throws on a Tuesday with no pads on. So, I mean, I get that we're trying to put together like a larger evaluation by really looking into every nook and cranny and watching all the reps and, really studying this stuff hard. That's the details that matter in football, right? But still, when the lights are on and it's September, that's really what we're looking for here. And we're seeing a guy who you're giving examples of a player who stepped into a tough situation in these 2 games and was able to elevate his...
And the offense.
Exactly.
And their line wasn't anything great either.
No.
Let me tell you that, Sean.
That's what we're asking Jacoby Brissett to do, is really just to elevate some of these young receivers and bring them along. And, a lot of people are saying, well, Drake May could do that. And, I made the comparison in a recent show that I did. Well, who's the... Other than Mac Jones, and we're not going to talk about Mac Jones anymore. We'll just let him go live his life and go find success somewhere else. Exactly. Do your thing, Mac Jones. You don't have to worry about us anymore over here. But you take it back to like Drew Bledsoe's year when he was obviously a number 1 pick, and you could make the argument that he elevated his young receivers in Brisby and Timpson, into being the kind of players that they became. You could argue that Tom Brady, a little bit further along in his career, was able to elevate a David Givens or a Deion Branch as young players in this league. So, but the thing with Bledsoe is, though, he wound up putting up some numbers, he needed a 4-game winning streak at the end of that season to actually make it look respectable. There are some bumps and bruises along the way.
And bruises is the big word. He got sacked
a
ton in his Patriot career.
Right.
He got hit hard. That first year, 15 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, 16 sacks, which is kind of a number that surprised me a little bit. I thought it would be more.
I think 8 of the TDs came in the last 4 games, including that big Miami comeback that everybody points to as a big moment. And you're looking for that moment at some point with Drake May, right? But does it have to be right here at the jump? I mean, you look at it one way and you could say, well, what's really stopping us? And I think it's what you just alluded to, damaging another young player. There's a reason that Mac Jones is in Jacksonville right now and potentially getting traded somewhere else and actually maybe looking like a pro again. But
I think the reason
he got damaged here.
But his rookie year, though, remember, he had Josh McDaniels, and I think the reason he got destroyed here was what he had after McDaniels.
To come after McDaniels, exactly. So it's like when the infrastructure is there, you can feel it. It's not analytics. It's an eyeball test thing. When the infrastructure is there, that's the right time for a rookie quarterback to come in.
And I think what we saw with and I understood what the Patriots were doing. Alex Van Pelt and T.C. McCartney, the quarterback's coach, what they were looking at was bring in May. His footwork needs to improve. His fundamental skills need to improve. And if they put him out in that first game for 6 snaps or what have you, but they had him simply call plays in the huddle, which he hadn't done at Carolina. They had him throw short passes, screen passes. They had him under center, hand the ball off. They had him in all those different situations to get him a feel for it. Mm-hmm. And then if you talk to some of the players, and I was down to 29 of the 30 practices. So in that second game, when he had that touchdown run, that drive, when he threw the ball, completion over the middle, I think to Polk, and the near one to Baker, which was his best throw of the night, that next day in practice, you could see what that did confidence-wise for him. And I think that's kind of where he turned that corner. And the players have all said that. Antonio Gibson was one. Some of the other offensive players said that he seemed to turn a corner after that game and just became a different player and started to get it. But what I also will say is when he was in 2-minute drill, especially against the Eagles, the joint practice, he struggled, struggled badly. So I don't feel like he's there yet for where the staff wants him to be. And then you go back and look at some of the things, right? With these rookie quarterbacks, you have to say, does he have the right players around him? That's part of it with some of these rookie players. Like if you look at Caleb Williams, it looks like they've surrounded him
Keenan Allen
with a lot of talent. They drafted Odunze, so they've got Keenan Allen, they've got DJ Moore.
They've got a good tight end there,
and Kmet, the tight end, so they can do what they need to do. And then if you look, the next thing is how much does he process in his mind quickly? How fast can he play? Mm-hmm. That's another thing that you look at too. And he seems to be getting there, but I don't think he's there 100% yet, so you don't want him injured. And then other quarterbacks that have sat, you hate to say it to people because they get mad, is, we know Brady's story. Mm-hmm. We know Aaron Rodgers. We know Patrick Mahomes. We know Drew Brees, Lamar Jackson, last year's MVP, and Jordan Love. Just a sample size of players that have sat, taken in the process, Matt Hasselbeck in the story with Mike Reese yesterday, saying that it helped him so much, and he would run the meetings on Friday so that he could so the coaches could get an understanding of what he grasped of the offense. Things like that, the stuff we don't see behind the scenes, where let them develop Drake May and let him become what they hope he can become. And right now, that offensive line says, don't do it to him right now, right?
Yeah.
But Brissett, as a veteran, might be able to process quicker, make the right decisions, and move the team with the ball. People are giving up, like saying they're just giving up. They're losing. Jacoby Brissett takes that as an insult.
Yeah.
The expectations outside aren't what they are inside. So we shall see Sunday. And again, I might be proven wrong here, but you don't know what we're going to see in this offense come Sunday in Cincinnati.
Exactly. And, I do think that if I were to prognosticate that it's, not going to be a winning season for the Patriots necessarily, but what are we really seeing? Because this is the adjustment, right? From oh, geez, I could find a way. Hey, if they sign if they go get Brandon Ayuk, I could see this team maybe being a fringe playoff contender. It's not about that. It was never about that. And it's just kind of week to week here. How's Gerard Mayo, kind of picking up this head coaching thing? How is his decision making? How are his substitutions? How's the play calling for Van Pelt? How are these receivers coming along? There are just so many. How's the defense gelling without Judon and Barmore certainly in the mix? There are so many little things that week to week are going to matter. And again, like with any team, if you can kind of get things rolling here, we're not looking at a win streak. We're just looking at competency repeated on a week-to-week basis and development, exactly, and execution. And those are the hallmarks. And once you start rolling those together, then you're saying, okay, we got a team. And a team that maybe you're keeping some component of that core together over the next several years.
And what are the expectations?
Yeah.
In Cincinnati?
Yeah.
I think we should find out.
That's what I want to find out. We're going to talk to Mike Petralia. You know him around here for many years. He is with CLNS out in Cincinnati. He's a beat reporter for the Bengals. He's got the Jungle Roar podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a podcast guy, so I'll talk podcast there. We'll talk to Mike. Big hour for guests next hour as well. Coach Ballgame. Going to be talking about the baseball as well. The baseball season not over, even though football right nipping at our heels. We'll get to Trags. We'll get to Ballgame next hour here on Toucher and Hardy with Sean Silver and Dan Roach. One losers in Detroit yesterday. Cooper Criswell's 4 innings of perfect baseball squandered as Spencer Torkelson went deep with a 2-run home run in the 5th to propel the Tigers to the victory. The Sox 4.5 back in the wild card. They open up a series in New York against the Mets this evening. Elsewhere, the Yankees on top of the AL East by just a half game as they lost 14-7 to the Cardinals, and the Orioles beat the Rockies 6-1. College football last night, LSU, 13th ranked team in the nation, falling to 23rd ranked USC in the final minute, 27-20. BC in action this evening against 10th ranked Florida State. Scotty Scheffler, your tour championship winner, $25 million richer following a 4-shot win over Colin Morikawa. Your Sportsub headlines brought to you by South Shore Bank. At Beatles Bank, sharing your success and growing your business is what above and beyond banking is all about. Visit SouthShoreBank.com, member FDIC, member DIF, equal housing lender. I'm Sean Silver, Boston Over Sports, 98.5 The Sportsub. Next update, 8:30.
If you've got the app, you've got Toucher and Hardy to wake you up no matter where you are.
Or who may or may not have been to jail.
Get the app. The 98.5 The Sportsub app.
Which feed of this is going to be used all around the internet?
Get up.
The cat is finally out of the bag.
Get up.
We're back. Toucher and Hardy.
Get up.
98.5 The Sportsub.
All right, 98.5 The Sportsub, the Toucher and Hardy program, hour number 3. Can you believe it, Dan? We have been here for 2 hours already.
Let me turn my mic on.
There
Yeah,
you
it'd be
go.
great. It's nice. It's been fun. A lot of different subjects, a lot of different things, and now we're going to talk to one of my favorite human beings on the planet.
Oh, wow, that's a high endorsement right there. Great follow on Twitter, @Trags. Mike Petralia, he is covering the Bengals for CLNS Philly, also the Jungle Roar podcast. I'm a podcast guy. I can get down with that. But Trags, someone we know and love from his work around here, been out in Cincinnati for a bit. Going to talk Pats Bengals with him this morning. Trags, how you doing?
It is good to be back on the air with you guys. How are you?
Michael, how we doing?
I'm good. Rochi, I miss you.
Miss you too, my friend. Let's talk a little bit about this Bengals team, as obviously the Patriots will see them on Sunday. As you know, it's been all Patriots all the time here, the focus and, the new quarterback, Jacoby Brissett starting, everything else. Take us from your perspective. What's kind of the theme with high expectations in Cincinnati this season?
Well, it is definitely a feel of Super Bowl or bust, guys. The Bengals are built to really get it done this year, and they got Joe Burrow's contract done last year. Then he goes out and gets hurt. From all indications, from everything I've seen in camp, and I was pretty much at every single practice and all 3 preseason games, his wrist has come back pretty close to 100%. He's going to have some lingering soreness in that right wrist, but he's able to make all the throws. And I think, even though he only had 1 series in the preseason, and that was against Tampa Bay, he looked very good. He looked a little spotty in one of the joint practices against the Chicago Bears, and then looked pretty good again against the Indianapolis Colts in a joint practice. Everything hinges on Joe Burrow. But the other key storyline to keep an eye on this week is whether or not they get the extension done with Jamar Chase. All of the other star wide receivers have pretty much gotten theirs in this offseason. Now Jamar Chase, who's been conducting a sit-in, he's been, with the team but not practicing. He wants one more penny, as the reports indicate, than Justin Jefferson. The Bengals say it's not been a distraction, but certainly they would like to get that done and have all of their weapons on hand. I will tell you guys, this Cincinnati Bengals offense is a lot more diverse and versatile than it was last year. They're not just going to rely on T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. And to me, that's the big difference in the 2024 Bengals.
Mike, if you could, give a little perspective. Obviously, we've seen some other examples around the league of, Brandon Ayuk and the situation with him. We saw the running backs last year kind of trying to angle as a skill position for more money. Where do you think things are going to wind up, I guess, with Ja'Marr Chase, if you could take your best guess?
I think he's going to get the deal done. I think he's too valuable to let go. I think the Bengals and owner Mike Brown and certainly Katie Blackburn, the executive vice president of the Bengals, they value Ja'Marr. It's just a matter of making the guaranteed money and the signing bonus money. Signing bonus money, of course, part of the guaranteed money. Make all of that work. Do they have the cash on hand? Everybody assumes they do, but that's not necessarily the case. So they need to make sure they get the numbers to work out the way they want to make them work out. I think Ja'Marr Chase is going to get somewhere in the neighborhood of $140 million, right up there with Justin Jefferson. And Justin Jefferson got $110 million guaranteed. I think Ja'Marr Chase is going to get $110 million guaranteed and one penny. That's the way I think it's going to work out. And I think Ja'Marr Chase is probably going to get somewhere between a $35 and $37 million signing bonus, which would, again, be right in the Justin Jefferson range. So to me, that deal gets done this week. I don't know anything for certain in that regard, but that's the way it's always been done here in Cincinnati. They wait until the days before the season opener. Happened last year with Joe Burrow. I think it's going to happen again with Ja'Marr Chase.
All right, you mentioned Joe Burrow and having a different offense. Tell us a little bit about that and what Patriots fans can expect to see out of this offense. If Ja'Marr Chase comes in this week, what makes it so productive? What'll make it different? What kind of challenges will this Patriots defense face?
Well, I'll give you one name, Rochi, off the top of my head that will make it different, and Patriot fans are familiar with him, and that's Mike Gesicki. They have big plans for the former Patriot as a slot receiver in this offense. And he is not, as Patriot fans know, he is not a traditional run-blocking three-tool tight end, pass block, run block, and catch the ball. They are going to use him as a downfield threat. And that's something they really haven't had on a consistent basis in the Joe Burrow years here in Cincinnati. I also think that the run game will be much different with Joe Mixon now off in Houston and Zach Moss, a free agent signing, with the Bengals, along with second-year player Chase Brown out of Illinois. The Bengals believe, guys, that they have a legitimate 1-2 punch in that backfield, and both running the ball and catching the ball. And Zach Moss is one of the best pass protectors as a running back in the National Football League. And I think that's going to make the Bengals Bengals offense a lot more, again, diverse and not predictable. I think they've been sensational with T. Higgins and Ja'Marr Chase, but they've also been predictable. Now I don't think, with new offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher, I don't think they're going to be as predictable.
Now it's one side of the ball, Mike, as far as defensively with Cincinnati. Obviously a few years ago, a Super Bowl team, a conference championship team. Last year, a step back, not only record-wise, but the defense almost also 31st in football at yards per game allowed. What's going to get them back on track? What should, for Patriots fans who might be a little trepidatious about how the offense is going to look or the offensive line holding up, what sort of weapons is Cincinnati throwing at the Pats in this Week 1 opener?
Well, the Bengals have really overhauled their defense, and it started in the secondary, bringing back Von Bell from Carolina after a year away from the Bengals. They missed him badly last year. They tried to put Dax Hill in that role, and Dax Hill really was never comfortable directing traffic, if you will, back in the secondary. So they brought Von Bell back. He's a leader, and he knows the defense of Lou Anarumo and how he wants it run in the back end. Geno Stone, I think he is a terrific free agent pickup from Baltimore. He's going to be the free safety. I think between Von Bell and Geno Stone, they're going to have a much better secondary and a much better ability to turn opponents over. Dax Hill has been moved from safety to right corner. And you can tell in talking to Dax Hill in the offseason and in training camp, he's much more comfortable. Zach Taylor, head coach, said in the last 2 weeks, the biggest improvement he saw on the Bengals defense was in the secondary. They're much more comfortable. They've got Cam Taylor-Britt on the other side. You mentioned up front, the Bengals are really centered. Their defense is centered around Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard getting after the quarterback. Sheldon Rankins is the free agent they brought in to replace DJ Reader they brought him in from Houston. BJ Hill is a lunch pail guy. He's a nose tackle, and he was very good in 2022. I think he fell off quite a bit last year because the Bengals relied too much on DJ Hill and BJ Reader. Now they think they have a little more depth in the middle of the defensive line. We'll see. Chris Jenkins, rookie out of Michigan, is someone else to keep an eye on. He is going to be a backup tackle as well. So that's the way the defense shapes up. They're going to have to get after Jacoby Brissett because I think they have to prove to themselves they can get after the quarterback this year.
Well, and I think they've been slow starters, notoriously slow starters.
Yes.
How much of a factor is that? How aware are they of that? And how much have they talked about that, Mike, as they get ready for the season opener Sunday?
That's a great point, Rochi, because they are 1-9 in the first 2 weeks under Zach Taylor. 1-9. Not good. And they are looking at this Patriots game. The players are like, obviously, they say all the right thing. Like Ted Karras, former Patriot, incredibly popular in the locker room. He's like, we just have to go out there and play our game. We don't have to worry about necessarily the record of the opponent last year. We're just worrying about going out and sticking to the game plan, and we'll be great. But privately, everybody knows they need to win 3 of their first 4 games without question. That's New England, obviously new head coach in Gerard Mayo. Then they have at Kansas City. Then they have home to Washington, at Carolina. Everybody in Cincinnati, everybody in the southern part of the state of Ohio is anticipating at worst a 3-1 start. If they don't, I think the sky will be falling in Houday Nation.
Just a final thought, Mike, is, you mentioned some of the former Patriots, Gesicki, as well as Karras. Is Trent Brown going to be your starting right tackle to start the season?
Yes, he is. And I should have mentioned that when I was mentioning the offense, Rochi. He has not practiced a lot. They didn't expect him to practice a lot. Zach Taylor always had a wink and a nod when talking about Trent Brown. There was a plan, air quotes, plan for Jamar Chase throughout training camp. There's been a plan for Trent Brown, and that is get him to week 1. Get him to week 1 has been the credo, has been the mantra with the massive right tackle that is going to start for the Bengals. That would have probably been different. I think Amarius Mims, the first-round pick out of Georgia, was in line to probably beat him out for that starting job. It would have been very interesting. But when Amarius Mims strained his pec early in camp, really, first couple of weeks, that ruled out that possibility, and the job was essentially Trent Brown's. It'll be Trent Brown, as you guys know, when he wants to play, one of the best pass blockers there is per Pro Football Focus, and certainly that will be helpful to Joe Burrow in the offense. It's just how much can Trent Brown stay on the field?
That's for sure. Mike Petralia of CLNS Cincy, also the Jungle Roar podcast. Appreciate you coming on to talk Patriots and Bengals. Some familiar faces that we'll be seeing this Sunday for the season opener. We'll see how much impact they have.
We'll see you Sunday, Trags, down there, and looking forward to seeing the voice of the Bengals from the world's greatest university down there as well. So it's going to be
Dan
fun.
Hort is looking forward to seeing you, Rochi.
Michael, we'll see you. Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you, Rochi. Take care. Take care, Sean.
Thank you. You can follow Trags on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it, at Trags, and find all of links to his great content there. So, yeah, interesting that Mike Gesicki one of the things coming up.
Mike Gesicki, Ted Karras, and Trent Brown.
Not Gesicki, not exactly used maybe the way that he thought he was going to be here in New England. A new lease on life there for him, Karras, and Brown. Certainly some familiar faces we'll be seeing as the Pats take on the Bengals. Of course, you can hear all of that right here on 98.5 The Sports Hub come Sunday.
And you can watch our pregame show at 11:30 Sunday. Patriots game day. I'll be there in Cincinnati. Steve Burton will be here in the studios. And then our post-game show, fifth quarter as well. We'll be ready for that, too.
Any and all plugs you want to make, Dan?
That was good. Thank you.
Yeah,
you can watch the game on WBZ, too.
There you go. Exactly. I'll be tuned in as well.
Thank you.
As well.
And listening.
And, expecting your coverage, all of the great things. So switching from football to baseball real quick. The baseball season not over as we anticipate the football season. The Sox may be fading a little bit, but there are some interesting races and kind of an interesting human interest story, you might say. Somebody that I wound up following on Instagram and has gone very viral. Coach Ballgame, James Lowe, will be joining us here on Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub.
You're listening to
Dan Roach sitting in with you on this Labor Day. And we'll let you know that this hour of Toucher and Hardy is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Roach, it's been good sitting in with you for a couple hours here so far. We just talked to Mike Petralia of CLNS Cincinnati and got his perspective, a little bit of perspective on the Bengals heading into this matchup here. I mean, this isn't the old exercise of looking at the football calendar or looking at the schedule and just going, okay, win, loss, win, loss. You know, it's there's really a lot more nuance to it than this. But, you know, based on the description that we just got from Trags and, you know, kind of just knowing that Cincinnati, well, hey, they're loaded at the skill positions. They've got some big plans. You know, this is a team that had some playoff success in recent years, and they're looking to get back there. Obviously on a different plane from the Patriots. Obviously, I think your expectation should be appropriately set for this game if you're a Pats fan.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of how the whole season will be.
Yeah.
But to me, the beauty of what we're doing and watching and everything else in every season is you just don't know until they play, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're the Patriots, we don't know what that offense is going to look like. Yes, they're having offensive line troubles, but the best thing you could possibly see, I think, is if they come out and they lose the coin toss and Cincinnati defers and the Patriots get the ball and they put together some type of drive to get into the end zone and get points on the board, because then you start at least the whole process of the defense sees that, gets up, a little bit energized. And as Mike said, under Zach Taylor, they're 1-9 in the first 2 weeks of his season in Cincinnati. So kind of get them in thinking in the back of their mind, here we go again, right? So that to me would be the best thing, either a turnover from the defense and points, or a good drive, a good first drive by this Patriots team with Stevenson running the ball, Gibson out of the backfield, using your tight ends. Hunter Henry should be good to go for this. And then hopefully one of the wide receivers steps up and you have something at least to put together and say, guys, this is how we're going to do it. A little, 7-minute drive and kind of get everybody going and then see what happens after that. That would be ideal.
Yeah, and I mean, there's your best case scenario, too. You're going to be looking, hopefully, their success is going to be based on putting together sustained drives. I don't think they're going to be going up and over the top necessarily, and beating teams with big plays. But you're just looking for a reasonable facsimile here of a pro offense, particularly after last year, where Bill Belichick was trying to get a little derivative there, and it just wasn't really well suited. And you could argue how well suited the Shanahan, Kubiak, it's kind of like being a basketball guy. It's kind of like the NBA. It's like everybody starts shooting the 3-pointer. So what advantage is it? Unless you run it with extreme efficiency and better than everybody else. It's right. So many teams run this particular style of offense now. So your goal is to execute better than anybody else. And then, on the other side of the coin, it's, hey, you may not have Matthew Judon. Obviously, the Barmore thing is, for several reasons, is disappointing and deflating. But you've still got a pretty good defense out there. I was reading, Mike Giardi did like a dump of kind of all the comments that, scouts and different league personnel had over on Boston Sports Journal, all the different things that people had said to him. And, one of the comments was just like, hey, they may not have Judon and who knows what happens with Barmore, but that defense is still scary in a lot of ways. A Cincinnati team that's maybe a slow starter, potentially a little disjointed due to Jamar Chase's sit-in, as Mike called it there during our guest spot with him. Maybe the Patriots defense can take advantage and again
Keon
get the
White
ball back.
Dietrich Wise and company can hit Burrow early, kind of get him off his game a little bit. Those are kind of some of the things you look for. And then, your linebacker core with Bentley and Tavai and company should be fine. And then, Peppers, you want Peppers to be that playmaker in the back and see if Christian Gonzalez, if he does indeed face Jamar Chase, or if he gets T. Higgins, depending if Chase plays or what have you, that Gonzalez gets to the form that that he can get to and he showed a flash of in his rookie campaign before getting hurt. So those are some of the things. Again, a lot of what-ifs out there, but again, we've seen this Patriots defense do that before. I always go back to it. People say, well, what do you think this year? I say they can't look any worse offensively than they did the final 6 or 7 games of the year. They just can't.
Yeah.
That was just some of the worst football you'll ever see a team play on offense. So they can't be worse than that. And their defense, yes, no Judon, but they didn't have Judon last year after 4 games. Right. And then Barmore's a big loss for them, but you hope that Keon White, who looked like he was progressing, can step up. You hope Dietrich Wise and can step up. And then some of the other guys, Anthony Jennings, your edge rushers and what have you, can get going a little bit too, and then anything can happen. So we'll see. Cautiously, and again, it's opening day. I'm not talking about the season. I'm not talking about anything else. One game. They're going against a team that's got Super Bowl expectations, but you just never know.
A lot of ifs. You mentioned it. You can try to take it one game at a time, but, I think you're looking for fulfillment on a lot of the what ifs. And, yeah, maybe that is a game-by-game process. I'm very much a process guy, not a, say, Philadelphia 76ers process, but I'm a let's take the journey guy. Let's take the ride here. If you're going to start over with young guys, obviously you have some foundational pieces, particularly on defense, where you can trust those guys. But let's look for guys who are going to make leaps. Let's look for signs every week that there's something here, that Christian Gonzalez is going to be that person, or that Keon White is going to be that contributor, or whether it's
Jeremiah Farms, who played really well the second half of the season and started to grow.
Yeah.
This kid's story is fantastic. Basically has been trying to play football his whole life and has been on so many. He graduated from Friends College in California. It just took him a long time. The USFL, everything else.
He's like the Daniel Nava of football.
Yes,
or something.
exactly. But he finally, and he's here, and the coaches say that he's just improving and getting better and better. So someone like that can try to help step in for Barmore and everything else. So yeah, you just hope some of these guys can take that next step and progress here. And again, all I care about, and I know I'm not, like everyone's thinking long-term and record, all I care about is Sunday. Like the beauty of what we do in covering it. I'll be in Cincinnati on Sunday, and I'm looking forward to when they kick it off just to see what this team has. And they've got some pieces. Can they get out of there with a victory? We'll find out, but I'm looking forward to watching how they look in week 1.
Yeah, it's football. It can be stifling at times. The heavily analytical, heavy prognostication, the cycle that we must go through, as a part of the sports media. But when you let it breathe a little bit, and you just kind of appreciate the game and look for opportunities to find joy. That's.
I know people hate to hear this from
me. Hey.
I don't mean to be. I know I'm supposed to be miserable, but the other part too is Gerard Mayo. Like you look at this camp that they just came out of with 30 practices or what have you in the 3 games. It was a harder camp physically and maybe mentally because of the length of some of the practices, like 2 hours and 40 minutes or so. It was a lot harder camp than the last 5 years of Bill Belichick camps.
Yeah,
I can tell you that. It was a lot more physical, and it was just, I thought, a lot more mentally challenging to this team. So we'll see what that means when they get out there and go on Sunday. So, again, we don't know. We don't know a lot of things because of Gerard Mayo, because of Jacoby Brissett, because of Alex Van Pelt. We just don't know a lot of things yet when it comes to this Patriots team.
And that's the beauty of the thing, Dan. I'm not trying to get you into your,
Don't get me waxing poetically. I'm not ready to do that yet.
but I'm not trying to be a certain way to get you to be optimistic or to get you to be, sunny disposition.
It's in my nature
about this, right? But I don't know. That's just how I am. That's just how I feel. So if we're gonna have a conversation about this team, I'm not gonna take some completely opposition standpoint here. I just think. There's way too much of that. Open up the phone lines and see what people
You'd like
think
to give
about.
us a call and go at us? Go ahead. That's fine.
Like, oh yeah, no, they should be starting May. Why are we wasting our time with Brissett? And it's like I've gotten weekends and nights of full phones of that kind of conversation. And I get it, and it's your prerogative and you're right as a fan to voice your opinion. But as the two of us here, I think maybe we're feeling a little bit differently. It's nice to have football back.
Oh, it's great. That's the other part, too,
right?
Sean. Right? We have Thursday to look forward to and Friday this year, too, right? Because of that game in Brazil that nobody wants to be at.
I could maybe do without the wall-to-wall nature of it.
But opening weekend.
Opening weekend is
you
fun.
Get Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday, and college football sprinkled in as well.
Sprinkled in.
And it starts tonight with BC at Florida State.
Like a nice little topping.
Florida State's there for the riping after we saw them against Georgia Tech. It's the first game under Billy O'Brien. It's going to be fun to watch the Eagles and see what they can do with Castellanos and company,
yes.
and then see what happens. So that's, to me, it's a great football week if you're a fan. A great football week.
And there you go. That's what it's all about. 617-779-0985. We mentioned Coach Ballgame. We're looking to get a hold of him. Next hour, we're going to be hearing from 98.5 The Sportsub's own Matt Dolloff of the 98.5 Underground podcast, which in a reader's poll was voted as the 5th favorite podcast among all Boston sports podcasts.
Very nice.
Pretty impressive.
Hear that, and Bob Socci will try to join us at 9:20.
Bob Socci.
Soci's in the parts unknown, and has said his Zoom link might not be the greatest, so we're going to find out.
Out there with the ultimate warrior. Anyways, Silver and Roach will be back on the other side of these headlines here.
Sportsub headlines.
Reds. 95 the Sportsub. Toucher and Hardy on Labor Day means no Toucher, no Hardy. Dan Roche beside me, I am Sean Silver. And we're here with you till 10 o'clock. It's 617-779-0985. This sounds very much like a Cure song.
This is Last Day of Summer.
Ryan Beaton playing the hits over there.
But yes, you got it.
Was this planned? This was a
maybe like last second planned.
Okay, I like that. We're not just playing automation here. You're not just going through the playlist. We're picking out the beauty of a real DJ.
Right there.
You know,
this is spinning the hits, Brian.
It's not Spotify. You know, we're not just some robot here. We are really truly thinking about this here.
Although this isn't
making
really
connections.
The end of summer. I like to look at it more of what we've had weather-wise, too, especially the last several years. It tends to get hotter sometimes in September than it does during the summer months.
Certainly can.
But for me, it's always the great thing is if you live down the Cape or if you're near the Cape, you can golf. It's much less crowded on a golf course down the Cape this time of year. It's beautiful, the fall foliage. And then we transition into football. Starting really tonight, if you want to talk Billy O and BC and Florida State, but then Thursday, Friday, Sunday, as we talked about, the Patriots opening up, and high school football is getting going too. So it's like a great time of year for that. So there's so many good things. The Bruins open up camp coming up next week. The Celtics are right around the corner, and I thought it was interesting to see. We've seen it a couple of times. Joe Mazzulla at camp, Patriots training camp with Gerard Mayo. And I'd just be curious what their conversations are like. You know, and you think about how the two are drastically different now from the sense of, you know, he's got a world championship under his belt now. Joe Mazzulla does. So now his challenge is going to be the motivation factors, getting them, you know, to continue to buy in. I think they have a good group for that. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious what Gerard Mayo is asking him, what kind of thoughts he's looking for X's and O's, for motivation. And vice versa. It just must be a fascinating conversation between the two because Mayo has seemed very comfortable in this role from day one. Mm-hmm. He really has. He seems to embrace it. He's looking forward to it. He said that first game kind of was what I thought it would be, and he likes the fact that he doesn't have to call the defenses. So he's very comfortable in that role. And I'd be curious to see how he adjusts to what's going to happen here starting on Sunday with his Patriots football team.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the situations here, obviously different succession plans. Joe Mazzulla was, called in like on a snap there when the whole Ime Udoka stuff came out. Gerard Mayo, it seems like maybe has been getting in position for this responsibility for a little while. It kind of seemed like, different expectations as well coming into a Celtics team for Mazzulla that was coming off an appearance in the NBA Finals. And it being expected to compete again versus Mayo, probably the complete opposite of that. One of the things that I think that they could share is just dealing with the media, right? I mean, I would say that Gerard Mayo has probably been pretty frank. It seems very comfortable. But Joe Mazzulla was maybe a little more tight-lipped, maybe a little more terse at times.
I thought he got better, though, as the playoffs in the whole postseason round. I thought he was much better this year than he was last year.
Oh, yeah, he's insightful, and, that probably comes with confidence, experience, feeling like you're not only getting the reps with the media, but also, getting the reps as a coach and just, feeling yourself a little bit. Gerard Mayo, clearly, he seems to pretty much wear it on his sleeve.
Yes, I know. Sometimes too much.
But maybe a little bit of Media 101 from Joe Mazzulla about that. When is the right time to button up?
Right, and I think it's also there's different layers of the media, too, which I think a coach has to get used to.
Yep.
When I covered the Celtics 2-month run through the playoffs, I'm looking for a 15-second soundbite saying we'll see what happens on the court. You know what I mean? It's just like I don't need the X's and O's.
Yep.
I don't need the the different plays and the transitions, whatever. I need to have a television bite which says we're really looking forward to getting back on the court, continue to see what we can do. We're up 2-0 in the series. That first game on the road is always fun. Those kind of sound bites as opposed to some of the X's and O's. And I think it took Joe a while to get used to that, but I think after a while he certainly was quite comfortable around it too. And then just to watch his pure joy when they won the the championship with his wife, and he's there at 5 a.m, walking around the court and everything else, soaking everything in. He was that way in the parade. He was that way for days and weeks around it, which was really cool to see. I think fans love to see that. A guy that has so much passion, and all we heard is from Brad Stevens how knowledgeable he was, and how this is the guy that you want to be in charge. He kind of let his guard down, and I just thought it was cool to see that love of the game just come shining through a guy like Joe Mazzulla. And now we'll see that with Jerod Mayo, and it's going to be a lot different. Here we go now. I always tell people, they've said to me, what do you think he's going to be like as a head coach? I'll say, well, we'll start September 8th. So he's got a free pass all the way through no matter what happens, right? You're not going to be able to judge him. And we've started to do that with some of the things he said and some of the ways he acted. He had his first, he said to me, I'll never forget my first day in full pads, right, with the whole Matthew Judon and the Wolf and Matt Groh and that whole situation and him and Mayo. He's never going to forget that. But he's learning along the way. So it's going to be interesting to watch him week after week here, wins, losses, how he handles things as well.
Yeah, kind of like success is almost like a universal. It just kind of boils things down to its essence, right? So whether it's a championship win or whether it's just a first win as a head coach, right? I mean, you've seen little moments stick out, even for someone who was as, I don't know what you would say, stoic as Bill Belichick, right? But certain things would get him excited, right? And as
like Johnny Hecker. Right? Ask him about the punter.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Or, just it's so interesting what makes these guys tick. And Joe Mazzulla, right, kind of sometimes seems a little bit robotic, very intense, very focused, very analytical. But winning brings him joy just the same as it brings us joy. So it's just kind of it's the universal thing that brings us all together. So, and you kind of look for. It was always interesting with Francona and Belichick and Doc Rivers and Claude Julien. Like there was a little bit of a fraternity there at that time when they were all experiencing so much success. Occasionally one would pop up at the other's event or at a game, and it was always interesting to hear, like, what'd you guys talk about?
Yeah.
They're probably never going to tell you the whole story about what they talked about, but just the little tidbits. Now that you have kind of a whole new vanguard, certainly with a Bruins coach who's been here for a couple of years.
Yeah, Jimmy Montgomery. And I know Alex Cora, he texts.
Alex Cora's the veteran
all
now
the time
of the Boston head coach.
He's always texting, like, whether it be Joe Mazzulla or whether it be the Bruins coach or whether it be Jerod Mayo. I know in the past he's done it with certain coaches, Brad Stevens and everything else. And a lot of times they invite him to practice to just kind of observe and see what they see with a different perspective of a different sport, working with different athletes, right? You always like to get that kind of perspective. And I think stuff like that's really cool too. Like Bill Belichick, we talked about what lit him up. I always told people, if you really want to see what Bill is all about, go to a training camp practice.
Yeah.
Especially one that's going to be in pads, and go, because he's just jumping around from station to station to station, and you can see teaching and just saying different things and technique and what have you. And it gets fascinating. And I always thought that was when we were doing the preseason games for TV, we'd have our production meetings. And there was one time where I think Christian Fourier asked him, hey, Bill, what were you seeing from Christian Gonzalez on that deep route? What's the responsibility of a cornerback? Oh, his eyes lit up.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, you be one cornerback, Chatham, you be the other guy, and then you be the receiver. And he's got pillows out and he's everything else. And he's showing us exactly the proper technique for looking up, seeing when the ball is up in the air, where it is, and adjusting and things like that. And it was just fascinating. And he would go on for 15 minutes talking about one simple job that you could do. And that's where you really said to yourself, you see the media and all that kind of stuff. This is what Bill Belichick is all about and was all about. It was teaching the game, and that passion still is there, I got to believe, for Bill Belichick and what he does. And when he's able to do that, that's his like nirvana.
You see him coming back, Dan?
I do.
Yeah.
I think so. I thought it was a no-brainer for him to if I was Jerry Jones, and if Jerry Jones didn't have his ego or what have you, I'd say, come on down. This year, I would have said, you're and I think Devin McCourty said it to me, that like the day one Bill Belichick walks into that meeting room, everyone's at full attention. At least for 1 year, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's just soaking in everything that this guy says. And that market, that team right now with Prescott and Lamb and company, they're ready to win now.
They're on the cusp.
And
Yeah.
they need to. And I think Belichick would have been the perfect guy to put into that situation.
Yeah, well, he's 14 wins away, is it?
Yeah, something around
like
there.
that.
Yep.
So, from the record, but obviously the ultimate. Talk about throwing a wrench into the whole it was Brady not Bill argument. What if Bill went somewhere else and got another Super Bowl? That would really be something. But yeah, that's another one of the things, and that's beyond the wins and losses. That's beyond the quarterback controversy. That's beyond, just the need to breathlessly, have takes on a game. That's the beauty of the game. There is just kind of watching the coaches do what they do and knowing what makes them tick. And yeah, I guess as a media, we can get on them or lob things at them when things aren't going as according to plan. But again, at the heart of it, there's a reason that they're doing what they're doing. Clearly, that's there for Gerard Mayo. I'm very interested to see how this goes. Of course, there's going to be missteps. It's probably not going to be perfect. One of the things that I was interested in is, you take Mayo, you take Van Pelt, and you take Drake May, and you wonder, when the Patriots had their first, say playoff berth, will it be all three? Who's got the longest leash? It might be Mayo. It might be Mayo. Here,
I don't know
if you disagree or not. I think Van Pelt probably has the shortest leash.
Yes, because that's the easiest thing to do,
right?
In any situation.
Turn over the OC.
Yes.
But the investment on the quarterback,
they're
going to hang
hand
with
in
that
hand
for a while.
Those two guys right now, Gerard Mayo and Drake May, are hand in hand here as they go about their business. And again, we will tell. And Elliot Wolf is in part of that package too here, because he's comes from, as we know, from the Green Bay and his legendary dad and everything else of patience with Jordan Love and with Rodgers and quarterbacks. So they're following seemingly that game plan, that developmental plan, and they've been sticking to it. And now we're going to see if it works. And early indications are, yes, that it looks like Drake May has the makings of everything that you want in that franchise quarterback. But there's so much more to it as we go about and as we see what happens here. And, is Alex Van Pelt the right man for this offense to lead Drake May? So, again, all questions we talk about and how they're going to play out as the season goes along.
Yeah.
Nobody knows right now.
Yeah.
So now you just see and kind of take it from there. And that's kind of the beauty of what we're going to watch here coming up.
We're preaching patience here. Sean Silver, Dan Roach, Labor Day.
People are hating us. Sorry, sports callers.
Hey, come at us if you want. We got the phone lines are available at 617-779-0985. Couple guests on the other side of this here. Matt Dolloff, 985thesportsub.com. Bob Socci.
I think Matt's going to come at us, by the way, Sean.
Yeah, hey, so be it. I could use a little bit of Matt's salt, thrown into my.
You want to get angry at us, Matt?
Here.
Come on.
We'll see. The Sportsub Underground podcast, and of course, Bob Socci, the voice of the New England Patriots, on the radio here at 98.5 The Sportsub and the Patriots Radio Network. We'll join him from parts unknown, as Rochi called it. He's out there somewhere in the ether.
He's off the grid.
Off the grid. Thank you, Ryan.
He's on a 3-day bender getting ready for the season.
Silver and Roach here on 98.5 The Sports Sub.
Stay tuned for more Tencher and Hardy on the Sports.
Torkelson, which led to eventually the 4-1 loss. Sox in New York taking on the Mets tonight. 4.5 game out in the wild card. The Yankees maintaining a half-game lead in the AL East over the Orioles. Yankees lost yesterday 14-7 to the Cardinals. Orioles 6-1 winners over the Rockies. Your Sunday Night Baseball, Nick Castellanos, a walk-off single. Phillies beat the Braves in 11, 3-2. In college football, 23rd ranked USC with a win over number 13 LSU, 27-20, and a win that happened in the very last minute of the game. BC playing tonight, opening their season against Florida State. Little nightcap, 10th ranked team in the country, the opposition for the hometown Eagles. PGA Tour, Scotty Scheffler, $25 million richer following his tour championship win. He beat Colin Morikawa by 4 shots to secure the title yesterday. Hey Ron Yu, the LPGA FM championship winner. That one was over at TPC Boston. You beat fellow South Korean Jin Young Ko in a playoff. In the U.S. Open, on the men's side, Francis Tiafoe and Taylor Fritz, both Americans, both on to the quarterfinals. 3-seed Coco Gauff out in the women's draw. She loses to fellow American Emma Navarro in 3 sets. The Sportsub headlines are brought to you by Safety Insurance, providing comprehensive coverage for your auto, home, and business. Ask your independent agent about safety. I'm Sean Silver at Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sportsub. Next update, 9:30.
Boston, the greatest sports town in America.
We have a farm. I have about 200 pigs here.
We get to spill beers on each other without worrying about spilling beers on people.
Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. On the air, online, on the air. This is how Boston sports fans start their day. Toucher and Hardy on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Like, I have become the cliche. I become very wide during the month of December. Maybe hard to imagine given my frame, but I pack it on during
If
December.
I could have one meal during the day, for every day for the rest of my life, it would be vanilla birthday cake. Every day.
Vanilla?
Yes.
How very vanilla of you, Dan.
I know. It's just beautiful, though. I'd eat it, throw it up, and eat it again. That's how good it is.
Like a baby bird. Oh, man, I know somebody who would want to get on this talk here. Matt Dolloff, 98.5thesportshub.com, the Sports Hub Underground podcast, which I'll stump for. I'm a regular listener to that one. Hey, Matt, what's your favorite birthday cake?
Oh, I'm very simple. I like the vanilla, the white on white.
But way to work.
That's my standard.
Okay.
Ice cream or no with it?
Oh, you got to have ice cream. Yeah. I'm a cookie dough guy.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Oh, I was going to say, is that also vanilla for Dan? We going all vanilla?
yeah, we could.
All whites, like a pair of dad sneakers, just all white.
I just bought some Jordans not too long ago. Thanks.
Matt, good to check in with you. I last talked to you I think at the outset of training camp and stuff. I mean, just want to take your temperature on things. Dan and I have spent the morning preaching patience and, talking about, hey, it's exciting to have football back. Let's see what happens with the Cincinnati game.
How surprised that you that him and I would sit here and say those kind of things, right?
Oh, my God. Yeah, you guys are way too happy to be working on Labor Day.
I know, sorry.
Be honest here.
All right, so give us some misery. Go ahead.
Oh,
the floor is yours.
How do you feel, Matt?
No,
How
I
do you
mean-
feel?
Yeah, look, I'm an optimist too. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that doesn't make me a great fit for sports talk radio, but this is a team that, they're not projected to have a good season. So it's hard to have any kind of optimism going into the season. But I think the way it's shaken out over the course of camp, guys, is that I think the offensive line has struggled so bad that it's sort of seeped into the rest of the team where people sort of start to have this mindset that they're going to be that bad at every spot in the roster. And I just don't think that's the case. And that's definitely an optimistic view of it because, bad offensive line play can torpedo a whole offense. And if you want to even boil it down to just left tackle, I mean, their lack of investment in left tackle could torpedo the whole offense this season. And so if you don't score enough points in this era of the NFL, you're not going to win a lot of games. And so I'm going into the season hoping that they can get to 5 wins. And look, nobody's saying that's a good season, but they could at least come out of a 5-win season saying they took a step forward, even if it's a small step forward. You could sell the team, you can sell the fans, you can sell us on the fact that they are building something. They made some progress. Hopefully you see some of the rookies and young players develop. That's sort of what this season's all about. And, it didn't have to be that way. They probably could have invested a little bit more in outside additions and free agency to, just improve the roster. It was more status quo as far as, they spent a lot of money this year. but it was mostly on guys that they kept internally, retaining their internal free agents.
Right.
And so they didn't invest a lot outside of the team. And so it is hard to have optimism for the season. And look, the offensive line thing could, by sort of the domino effect, ruin the whole thing. But I don't think they're going to be that bad at every position. I think they're improved at wide receiver. I think, the quarterback play can't possibly be worse than it was last year. And the defense, and they obviously had a big loss in Christian Barmore, but I think the defense could still be pretty good. They have a couple of young players that they drafted last year, Christian Gonzalez and Keon White, that could both, take big steps forward and become real impact players in the league. And so there's a little bit to look forward to. It's just, if you're expecting it to translate to a lot of wins, I think you're getting your hopes up. I think it's probably a good idea to keep the expectations low in terms of wins, but I do think there's a chance that you see progress in certain areas of the roster.
So let's take that one slice that you mentioned off the top there, Matt, that offensive line, right? We're going to go there today. Vidarian Lowe and Sidney So both dealing with injuries. What do they look like? Do they get on the field today? Those are kind of some of the things that we look at. They've claimed 2 offensive linemen as well. If you're Alex Van Pelt and Scott Peters, the offensive line coach, what kind of scheme, what are you coming up with in your mind as you go into Cincinnati Sunday to try to produce some offense here with that line?
Well, that's the thing. They've shown a lot of confidence in Vidarian Lowe as the starting left tackle. And, maybe that's just a put on. Maybe it's lip service, however you want to describe it. But their actions sort of match their words. That Vidarian Lowe was the starting left tackle for, 2-3 weeks in a row before he got injured. And they never moved off that plan until he got hurt. And so he goes out and they shift Mike Onwenu out to right tackle. They bring in Layden Robinson, the rookie guard, as opposed to putting the rookie tackle, Caden Wallace, in there. So they believe in Vidarian Lowe and Chuks Okorafor sort of settling in as their starting tackles. Now, how good are they going to be? I think that's a fair question. I don't know if they're going to be, good enough to have a good, productive NFL offense. But I feel like they've had a lot of confidence in Lowe, and I think he's going to go right back in there at left tackle. And look, this is a guy that he's not going to be a good starting tackle. I don't think at any point in his career at left tackle. But he's had some moments. It's hard to sort of parse out those good moments because he's had a lot of bad ones. But Elliot Wolf expressed confidence in him in using his hands, and he has used his hands in a good way. He's been able to stand up pass rushers at times. He just hasn't done it consistently. And so if he doesn't get back out there, you're probably looking at a core force staying at left tackle because unless Caden Wallace has somehow made enough progress over the last couple weeks that they feel that they can put him in there at left tackle. He had a cup of coffee at left tackle earlier in camp before they went to Vidarian Lowe. And so if they have to sort of mask the tackle problem, I think you're just going to see a lot of offensive plays being run up the middle. I think they were able to open up some holes in the run game in the interior. They did that at times in the preseason, mostly in that Eagles game, surprisingly enough, even though that was against backups. But they even had some moments in that joint practice that overall it was a bad joint practice. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. But, Sidney So might not be out there. But David Andrews, Mike Onwenu, if they're on the interior, they can open up some holes in the interior. And I think they have a pretty good group of running backs. And I think Ramondre Stevenson, as long as the holes are opened up for him, is going to have a big year. And so I think you're going to see a lot of interior runs. I think they're going to sort of tailor the offense to the personnel they have, which is still sort of suited for that gap power scheme. So I think you're going to see a little bit of that. And I think they're going to be able to run the ball between the tackles maybe better than people are expecting. And so if they have to, mask the tackles with the pressure coming off the edge, they're probably going to have to make a lot of quick decisions in the passing game. And so they're probably going to have a lot of designed quick passes, screens, and things like that. So, it's stuff that we've seen a lot of over the last 2 years, trying to mask these offensive line problems, which I know makes it frustrating that they still haven't really gotten any better in that area. But I do think there are ways to mask it. And I do think they have some personnel to sort of mask that and maybe move the ball a little better than people are expecting, especially on the ground.
And before you get to the next question, John, I thought in watching camp and all the practices, if it goes the way it's going, Jacoby Brissett's going to throw to Austin Hooper 427 times on Sunday. Every time there was an available play, he threw to Austin Hooper. Every time. in camp, and they were in all the different drills. Go ahead.
I charted all the passing plays. I don't have the notes in front of me, but there was definitely one day where Austin Hooper had like 17 targets. Like it wasn't, it was getting out of hand at one point. But it was one of those days that it was the first or second day that Hunter Henry went down with an injury. So Austin Hooper was the clear-cut number one tight end, and Jacoby Brissett was just feeding him.
And I haven't asked him yet. I want to ask him how many times people have come up to him and said, "Hooper, show me your hands." Right? It's got to be in the thousands because of Jones.
Oh my God, he's probably he's probably had enough of that. He's like, "My name's Austin. Yeah, just call me Austin, please."
Exactly. Sorry, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah.
Well, you got a film buff and Dolloff here on the line, so I mean. Matt, other side of the ball, I guess, if there's not too much promise to speak of on the offensive side, defensively, obviously we had the Matt Judon defection, the Christian Barmore situation lingering kind of over things here and not particularly promising or a happy note at all. But, there's some competency certainly on defense. There's some established veterans and guys for which, we have expectations to keep this unit together. Is there anybody of particular interest to you defensively who you're looking to make an actual certified leap here this season?
Yeah, well, I mean, I mentioned Keon White and Christian Gonzalez. Those are kind of the obvious ones because that was their top 2 draft picks last year. But I'll give you Anthony Jennings, a linebacker. It's his 5th year in the league, I believe. And, this is a guy that's he's had to work his way up through the lineup. He was in a bit of a log jam early in his career. And, Bill Belichick, when he was here, he liked to slowly develop the running backs. You rarely saw, or linebackers, excuse me. You rarely saw him develop linebackers to the point that they were playing right away, playing major roles right away. But as we saw over the last few years, at least, when Matthew Judon was here, when Matthew Judon wasn't on the field for whatever reason, injury or otherwise, Anthony Jennings was the one that sort of took his place. He was the next man up in that sort of role, that well-rounded 3-down edge rusher type of role. And I think he's been pretty effective. He's especially effective against the run. He's an edge setter against the run. And so I think it's going to be kind of hard to run on the Patriots off the edge, especially when Jennings is out there. And, he hasn't been quite as productive as a pass rusher. I'm not saying he's going to be Matthew Judon as a pass rusher, but this is a well-rounded player who I think has a chance to play all 3 downs, and this is his best chance yet to really make an impact for this defense. I think he has a clear every down role sitting there in front of him, and I think he's going to seize the opportunity. I think he's a good, solid player, and he plays really hard. He plays with an edge, and so I think fans are going to like him, especially if you haven't really paid as much attention to him just because he's sort of that reserve edge rusher role behind Matthew Judon, but now he's going to step up. I think he has to step up, and I think he's going to have a really good year. It's probably going to be his best year yet, almost by default. But, yeah, he's a good, solid player. He's going to play a lot. He's probably going to play more than he ever has this season. I'm looking for him to have a good year.
All right, Matt, final one from me is just we covered offense, defense. How about special teams? What we're going to see Sunday, we're going to see the new kickoff rule obviously come into play here. We're going to see a different kicker as Joey Sly beat out Chad Ryland. Barringer, what he's doing with the ball. And then obviously Marcus Jones could be a factor here, right? With what a dynamic rookie season he saw, and we saw that he got hurt last year. What do you think we're going to see special teams-wise with this team?
Yeah, I think that's sort of one of the silver linings of this preseason, Rochi, is that they look like they're going to be pretty good on special teams. And I know, you don't want to read too much into the preseason, but the special teams units, I thought, outperformed the offense and the defense as far as just, their individual effort compared to how they looked against their competition on the field. And so, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how they develop. And I think they might have found someone with their new special teams coordinator, Jeremy Springer. This is a former Sean McVay guy. He was on the Rams before. And so maybe, people were clamoring for that, that bright young offensive mind. They might have found that in the special teams unit. So I think that's worth watching. And this is sort of a new era of the Patriots where they don't have a lot of pure special teams guys. I mean, even Brendan Schooler was mixing in on defense a little bit in camp. And so you're going to see a lot of guys that play offense and special teams or defense and special teams. And I think that's going to be a difference. And what I thought was interesting is Jalen Reagor. He's currently on the practice squad, but he had a good preseason in terms of returning the ball. And they didn't bring back David Wallace, who had a lot of good returns in the preseason. So it's going to be interesting to see who gets the bulk of those return plays. Marcus Jones is a prime candidate for that, but he's going to have to stay healthy. So I'm not sure that he's going to be out there all the time in the return game. But yeah, like I'm interested to see how this new kickoff rule shakes out. I'm interested to see if they have if they just have an uptick in touchdowns, if guys keep breaking through that first wall of defense. I'm interested to see how that turns out in the regular season. But yeah, I think the way the Patriots, the way they covered and the way they returned the ball in the preseason, I think that's something that we can look forward to. And it's a new era with Joey Sly at kicker, so it is a new era in that area of the ball. And I know it's not as important or exciting as offense or defense, but I think that's an area where they could be surprisingly good.
All right, some optimism there.
Love it.
Something
Great
to
way
look
to
forward to there. You guys,
they're going to win 5 games.
Had to throw that out there, didn't you?
I had to bring that down. Sorry, guys.
There's the cookie dough ice cream right there to bring things down for Dan. You guys doing a show this week?
Am I doing a show? Yeah, I'm doing a show later today.
Nice. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Barth.
You're doing a show tonight.
Barth are doing.
You're on from 6 to 8. Does it have a title?
6 to 8 p.m. I don't know if it has an official title. I just call it the Patriots season preview show.
Yes.
It's become sort of an annual tradition. This is the 4th or 5th year we've done this. So, yeah, no, it's fun working on Labor Day. It's a tradition like no other.
I was thinking so hard about the podcast, I forgot the fact that I brought you on, not explicitly to, but definitely to plug the fact that we have a Patriots season preview show with Matt Dolloff and Alex Barth on these airwaves this evening.
That's tonight, yeah. And, Ty Anderson and I will definitely do another Sports Hub Underground sometime later this week. I think you guys touched on it last hour. The Bruins training camp is around the corner, too. It's just a week or two away. So we got a lot to talk about going into that, and there's going to be a lot of hockey talk coming up as well.
It's good. Jeremy Swayman. Awesome.
Yeah, no, it's been about 4 weeks in a row of that. We're pretty tired of it.
Should be fun. I'm looking forward to the Bruins too.
Yeah. I look forward to the unrelated banter as well on the Sports Hub Underground. There's always something to lure you in and keep you there on that podcast.
I love a good tangent. You know that.
Oh yeah, I'm a tangent guy. All right, Matt, thanks for joining us. Matt Dolloff, 985thesportshub.com, Sports Hub Underground, and featured here this evening with Alex Barth in the Patriots season preview show on 985 The Sports Hub. Thanks for joining us, Matt. Me and Rochi will be back on the other side with Bob Socci here on 985 The Sports Hub.
Maybe. I'd eat it, throw it up, and eat it again.
More.
Giant by the Sportsub. This is Toucher and Hardy with Sean Silver and Dan Roach this morning. Reminder that Toucher and Hardy brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. And now from parts unknown, joining us in the Volkswagen Dealers Expert Hotline, hopefully with a reliable link and reception here, is the voice of the New England Patriots on the Patriots Radio Network, Mr. Bob Socci. Bob, thanks for joining us this morning.
Well, good morning. I hope you can hear me okay. You're certainly in your pure dulcet form, Sean. Got you guys great on the edge of wilderness.
The edge of wilderness.
I'm literally on the edge of wilderness. I'm just outside a wildlife preserve. So staying with some friends in an old bed and breakfast that's been converted into a private residence. And we're down by the Cape. And I'm crossing my fingers. I'm going to hold my breath as much as possible between sentences and hope that you get it all.
We appreciate that. That sounds very nice and a nice way to spend, a little bit of downtime before the hoopla of the season there. The edge of wilderness, is that a metaphor for the New England Patriots 2024 campaign?
Well, I think it could be. Certainly we're about to venture into the great unknown in a lot of respects. And I just caught a little bit of your interview with Matt Dolloff, and I agree with Matt. There's certainly some things that could have been addressed in the offseason, maybe to provide a little more light to lead our way, if you will. But I think that it's a great mystery that's about to unfold. New head coach under a new front office decision maker, granted someone who's been there the last few years has configured this roster. With eventually a new quarterback and the franchise hopes the future face of the franchise. A lot of new parts on offense and defense, and considering that every year a roster turns over significantly. For the Pats this season, despite the continuity on defense, really wholesale changes across the board on the other side of the ball, with a few exceptions. And so, for me, as much as I approach the season hopeful that the Patriots can be competitive in games, but pragmatic too, thinking that it's going to be a tough year record-wise. I also know that, in my mind at least, this season won't be measured in the end by wins and losses. I do believe that I subscribe to what Gerard Mayo has professed, that it is about laying the foundation. It's hard to come to grips with around here especially. But if this team by the end of the season has moved in an upward trajectory with its quarterback, Drake May, and if we see some of the young players that they drafted, right now all the draft picks are on the roster, and we see some progress from those guys, then I think there'll be reason for optimism in the future.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about best case scenario, Bob, worst case scenario for the opener on Sunday. And I think we're all kind of sticking with the offense. I thought it was fascinating, Mike Reese's story on Jacoby Brissett. And, I'm not speaking for Jacoby, but it sounds like he's got that, chip on his shoulder from, hey, I'm not just a mentor coming in here. I can play the game. And if you go back and look at the two Washington games that he came into last year, taking over for Sam Howell, he looked good, threw the ball well, led them to near comebacks. They almost pulled one over on the Jets, and that they lost in the last-second field goal. But it seems like he's ready to go. Now, best case scenario for the offense, worst case scenario for that offense coming up on Sunday in Cincinnati.
Yeah, Rochi, I think that, and I saw you tweeted some of Jacoby's comments in that post by Mike in his notebook about the love of the game.
And one of the things that stands out about Jacoby Brissett, I've been told, is that he has tremendous confidence. Even though he's come in here and I think he's approached it exactly as you would like of a veteran placeholder and mentor for a young quarterback who is the future, I think Jacoby Brissett, does have that chip on his shoulder. And at the same time, he loves the game. He's going to embrace the opportunity against Cincinnati on Sunday. And though he's had a difficult preseason, certainly, and I think that that's given us a lot of cause to wonder,
going forward, how long will it be that he's the starter? Should he remain healthy? Nonetheless, this is a guy who I think it's important to note, who's got starting experience against the Bengals in divisional games only a couple of years ago while with Cleveland, and he split those two starts. So he's familiar with what he's likely to see from Lou Anarumo's defense from Cincinnati. I think when you look at the Bengals on paper, obviously Joe Burrow is back. That's a huge benefit for them. They've got great receivers even outside of Jamar Chase, but if he's in uniform,
considering the uncertainty surrounding him this preseason, you've got to take into account he hasn't been out there practicing every day. Maybe that's worth something. And I do think that Cincinnati's defense, from what we saw in 2023, isn't as strong personnel-wise. And offensively, there's no Joe Mixon or Samaje Perine, who were really instrumental in their success in the postseason a few years back. So best case scenario is the Patriots somehow are able to patch it together up front. Brissett is able to protect the ball. The defense does a good enough job to keep them in the game, and they're able to hang close. And first week one, and I know people are going to shake their heads and say this is ridiculous. This is the glass is half full or 3/4 full, Bob. But best case scenario is the Patriots go in there and hold their own and play well enough to maybe have a chance in the end to knock off Cincinnati. Week one is when we see a lot of those upsets. That's very, very unlikely. Worst case scenario is that Brissett comes out like he did in that last preseason game for him, this last home preseason game for him, and throw an interception right away. And the offensive line performs, the way it did in some of the preseason games in terms of a lack of protection, or in the last game, in terms of the lack of ability to just get organized. And we see a lot of procedural mistakes. To me, that's really going to be a thing that really causes a crisis in confidence, if there's any confidence for fans whatsoever going forward.
Hey, Bob, can I throw you a total big picture question?
Yeah, please.
From the edge of wilderness?
Which is generally when I'm speaking from the heart of wilderness, Sean, but go ahead.
The heart of wilderness.
Yeah.
This is your, how many seasons now as the voice of the Pats?
This is number 12.
Number 12. So 12 seasons in, obviously you've seen the highest of the highs. I mean, just, personally, professionally, showing up on Sundays, being around the team. What is kind of the main thing that you're looking to take out of this season? I think, we've done a lot of process questions this morning, and, talking about specific positions and what we hope for with the execution. But just in terms of your day-to-day and, covering and being around the team, like what are you looking to get out of 2024? What puts a smile on your face?
Well, honestly, and it's completely cliche, but it really holds true. And I think, one of the reasons why Roach and I get along so well, and you guys used the phrase early in the show, beauty of the game versus breathless taste. And I really do still, have a love for what we do, showing up to the stadium, watching a stadium come to life on game day, trying to paint a picture for 3 hours of what we're going to see. Obviously, you want the team to be competitive and contending. I've been so fortunate. My first 6 years calling Pats games, they reached the AFC Championship, if not the Super Bowl. As you mentioned, Sean, I've experienced as a broadcaster the highest of the highs. And yet, when you think about the lows in our business, even the lowest of them, then in comparison to what other people have to do, what they show up to work to do, we still have it really, really good. So, for me, what I'm looking to take out of it is just to continue to enjoy what I do, try my best every Sunday to make that game a story unto itself, which it may very well be, to be as entertaining and informative along with Bill. He'll provide most of the entertainment. I'll try to take care of the information from the stats and down a distance perspective, and just really have a good time calling the games. But I think it does go back to the future of the franchise. It's around the bend. We are on the edge of wilderness, and somewhere on the other side is the future of this franchise and the future of Drake May, along with head coach Gerard Mayo. Mistakes are going to be made, and this team is going to continue to go through a lot of issues this year. You hope the injuries don't pile up. I think the defense obviously is a strength, but what I want to see from the defense is the same kind of effort that we saw throughout last season. One of the things that people credited Bill with last year is how hard the team played. And I think players on that defense who've been around, there's a lot of pride there. You think about guys that have been in the organization for a long time, Wise, for an example, Jawan Bentley, or the still, I say a newcomer, but to me, still a relative newcomer like Jabril Peppers. I want to see those guys continue to play as hard as they have in the past, despite what happened offensively or special teams. I want to see, though, a team in those other two areas that doesn't commit the kind of
self-inflicted mistakes, self-inflicted wounds we saw the last couple of years. A special teams unit that is sound, a place kicker this year in Joey Fly, who can continue the kind of success he had, frankly, in Washington. Last year such a difficult year for rookie Chad Ryland in that position. There were so many close games for the fact that they win by a single score. It really could have turned out differently. It's not for an interception not thrown, particularly in the red zone, or a missed field goal when he had an opportunity to cut a deficit to 3 or 4, or maybe even take the lead. So I want to see those other two areas. I want to see the offense improve in terms of its operation, and mostly the young guys, Polk, Baker, Robinson, Wallace, Bell. I want to see them improve around the young quarterback trade made by Super.
Yeah, Dan. Sorry, Bob. So eloquently said. However, the audio is kind of tricky at this point. So we'll thank you for your time. We obviously look forward to hearing from you on the broadcast. We look forward to reading more of your stuff. If you want some more insight about the Patriots, you can check out Bob's writings on the web. He's a member of our team at 985thesportsub.com. Dan, do you have any parting words for our colleagues?
So, can't wait to embark on this season with you.
And likewise, Rick, I never sounded better than in that last clip with all the distortion. So, I appreciate it.
It was beautiful. It was poetic. It's something we need to run through a filter.
It sounded like parts unknown sometime, and then it sounded like you were right in the heart of the wilderness. So it was perfect. It's all good.
Perfect.
Yes.
Into the wild.
So enjoy the rest of your Labor Day, and I'll see you down in Foxborough.
I'll see you in Foxborough. Guys, thanks.
Thank you.
Be well. All right, Bob
Love hanging
Socci.
out with Sos. At training camp, we sit next to each other, take notes, analyze thoughts. It's fun.
Must be a trip.
It's good. It's like it's people. That's what I love about my job. Seeing people every day.
Well, that's kind of why I wanted to ask him about just kind of the big picture of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's his job, right?
Yeah.
It's his job, but it also kind of, you want to, kind of be a part of something that gets built, right? If you're Bob Socci this year, that's how I look at it anyway. And again, I always say they've got a year. Now, give me a year. You got what looks like a good quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Go get a number 1 wide receiver and go get a number 1 tackle. And then we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Perhaps through the draft with one of those things.
Free agency, draft,
free agency.
Yeah.
There's a lot of options out there. I mean, the roadmap is certainly laid out before us, and there's a lot of alterations you could make to the route at this point if you're the New England Patriots. But
we come back, we got stuff we didn't get to today.
Yes. Let's stack it up, baby. Sean Silver, Dan Roach, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
possibly have missed from the show. It's time for The Stack on Toucher and Hardy.
All right, this hour, Toucher and Hardy, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Sean Silver, Dan Roach here, doing The Stack in lieu of Fred and Mr. Poole being here on a Monday. You've got Silver and Roach. And The Stack brought to you by Best Ford in Nashua. Looking for great deals on new Fords? Go to the best first. Best Ford in Nashua. Head to thebestford.com. I drive a Ford. It's a good truck.
F-150?
F-150.
Yeah, number one selling truck in America for years.
For 9 years.
Yeah.
And hopefully many more.
All right.
But, so my Ford not pulled over this weekend. Javon Baker of the New England Patriots.
Yeah, the
rookie. Apparently had some driving troubles at some point out there. We got some...
pulled over for a speeding ticket, I believe, right?
Yeah, and apparently we have some sound.
He
I
went
guess
off on
this is from
Instagram, I think,
the
after.
reaction to getting a ticket.
No reason. The man ain't even, I don't even got no police lights. She gonna walk up on me and give me a ticket. All right, well, what?
Uh-oh. No reason?
No reason.
Well, he'll have his day in court, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if he wants to contest
that'll
it.
be
or
some
he could
story
just-
that'll be blown up and magnified and everything else that he got a speeding ticket and
a license
ticket,
plate
or
issue,
whatever.
according to
really?
according to George.
Okay.
And, hey,
Just needs to be fixed.
I'll put it out there. I am due. I was away over the weekend. I came home. I'm due for an inspection. I'm overdue for an inspection.
That's an easy one to forget too.
I hope I don't get pulled over on the way home. Now people know there's an F-150 driving out of Waltham with
That's
an
you.
expired inspection sticker.
Oh.
I got a target on my back.
All right, so this is where we cover
hopefully.
everything else, right?
Yeah.
All right.
This is where we stack it up, baby. What's in your everything else, Dan?
You know me, I'm all sports related in my life. So.
Oh, okay.
I go Trevor Story at a rehab 2 for 4 yesterday. Started
yeah.
that. Had a bloop single and a double to left center field. One of the more emotional press conferences I've heard all year was opening day at Fenway, and Trevor Story basically facing the news that he wasn't going to be back the rest of the season. And it was genuinely, he was crushed. He was crying. It just kind of showed me how much he cares about the game. And yes, he's struggled in a Red Sox uniform. We all know that. But, man, he's an easy guy to root for in his comeback. So he started that with the Woo Sox. And speaking of the Woo Sox, they sold or had their 500,000th customer come in through the gates yesterday at Polar Park for the third straight season, the first minor league team to ever do that. And Marlboro resident Paige Perkinson, her husband David, 8-year-old son Wiley, and friend Amy McHugh of Quincy got a swag bag, a game and a suite with all the food and beverages they could eat and drink, courtesy of the Woo Sox for being the 500,000th ticket. I always wanted that. I always wanted something like that. To get to go in as like the 1 millionth Dodger fan or something. It'd just be fun, wouldn't it? To get pampered for a day.
Yeah, says the guy who got to play the country club before the because he was hanging out with the Aussie in the right place at the right time.
Sorry, that was in Illinois, but that was being in the right place. At the right
excuse
time.
me. Yeah, gotcha.
No, that's okay. There's a couple of things. I got plenty more, but you go.
Well, I don't know. Do you spend much time on YouTube, Rochi? Is it?
No.
Does it?
I should, but no.
No. Well, no. You shouldn't.
Oh, okay.
I mean, just being on social media, you could spend your entire day on in other people's lives. There's this YouTuber, what's his name? Like Persnickety Pete or something. What the heck is his name? He's got a fake name. Anyways, this guy, Wes something. Why can't I find his name?
What do you do?
Wes Wherever. There we go. He camped on the Bourne Rotary.
Is that legal?
Apparently, some police kind of, he went down. He was kind of canvassing the area to figure out how am I going to get across this rotary? Where's a good place in there to camp? Because, it's not just, like grass like most rotaries or cement. There's some bushes. There's some tree action. You've got the Cape Cod-shaped bushes on there. But apparently the police Ryan threw this in the email. Hey,
yeah, I was gonna say apparently it's part of this trend called stealth camping. It's basically camping where nobody knows, like you're somewhere you're not supposed to be and trying not to be noticed.
And so he
How can
decided
you not
that
be noticed in the Vaughan Rotary.
well, it from the view here that I'm seeing in this Boston.com article, it kind of looks like you got a little coverage there. And not only that, he warmed up some food. I think he had himself a lobster roll and warmed up some food while he was camping there. But he said it was a really cool experience. And now he's gone on to Maine for his next stealth camping event. He heated up some Cajun fries and cooked himself a lobster roll, said the article, despite it being dark out.
Do what you got to do.
Sounds like a sleepless night.
I was at Pine
to
Hills. I'd rather do that in golf.
Yeah. Sleepless night. Just cars whizzing around you. I don't know. Well, good for Wes wherever.
Mm-hmm.
What else you got?
I can go anywhere. I can go
anything you can do.
It's
not hard to beat me, calling this guy Persnickety Pete when his name's really Wes wherever, not remembering the details here.
Yeah, but I'm more sports orientated. You know what I mean? Like, so I go with Scotty Scheffler and what he was able to do this weekend. Yeah. Win the Tour Championship, which they should change the format of, which I don't like because he got like 10 strokes to start.
The
next guy was 8. No, just go out and play.
I hear you.
But he did win 7. This guy had an incredible season, right? 7 victories. He won an Olympic gold medal. He got arrested before the PGA Championship, and he had a baby, and he made $62.5 million on the PGA Tour this year. So good for him. That was my big thing watching him. And then watching Hey Ron Yu and the FM LPGA event in TPC and Norton. Sounds like they're going to be back. FM's back as a sponsor, so good for them. Yeah, it was good for the game of golf, and I had a family outing of 8 of us at Pine Hills on Saturday. It was beautiful. Played the twilight, finished in the dark, but had a blast and had a turkey club, which is the best part of golfing at Pine Hills.
Club sandwich guy?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Perfect. So that was
turkey
good.
club the best choice for you?
Yes.
I like a good cheeseburger club.
Well, hot dogs on the turn, but this was before or after. We had to eat before because the place was going to be quiet after, so everything was closed. So it was good.
Gotcha.
That's all.
Closing out the place.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of selections here. Certainly, there's many different things that we could talk about.
Go. We only got 3 minutes. Go.
I could talk about Travis Kelce buying a horse named Swift Delivery.
Really?
But, people have probably had their fill of Travis Kelce news. Now, I will say his podcast got picked up by Wondery, which is owned by Amazon.
Yeah, making a little money, huh?
Yeah, they paid a ton of money for Travis Kelce's podcast, but they discontinued The Lead earlier this year, which was a great, daily sports podcast with, intriguing stories. They discontinued that and, canned all the people they continue.
Now, I'm curious to see what the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift relationship is like during this season.
Oh, really?
And how much it will be discussed during a broadcast, or if it's gone, or if it's history. Yeah. I'm just be curious to see how it goes.
That is interesting.
And the cool thing is if they break up, she's got 1 million songs ready to write.
Oh, God.
Right?
I've kind of had my fill on that.
Okay.
I'm not a Swiftie. I appreciate Taylor Swift's contribution to music, but it's just I don't know. I have a thing with media companies just getting rid of good properties like The Lead or like ESPN shelling out all that money for McAfee just because he's a personality, but all these other people get left twisting in the wind. I got a problem with that.
Okay,
I got a problem with it. But the thing I was going to bring up is BC playing tonight.
Yes,
that's a big game. Boston College. Did you know in the last 15 seasons, Boston College has won 7 games 7 times, but they've been unable to win 8, which generally puts you in bowl conversation, which is where they're looking to get back to.
Well, and
here.
if you look at Billy O, right, we all go back to what happened at Penn State, right, and that whole scandal and everything else. He took over that program when it was basically gone dark, and I think he went 8-4 in his first season.
Yeah.
So he's got a history of that. He had a history with the Texans. They were 2-14. I think he went 9-7 his first year as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully with Thomas Castellanos and a lot of guys returning.
Got some pieces,
I wonder if
sure.
there'll be a moment of silence tonight down in Florida State for the Gaudreau brothers and the tragedy that happened on Friday with that horrific story. So I think emotion will be on their side. And Billy O, I wish him all the best of luck. Just a good guy, an Andover guy. Got to like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm rooting hard for him, and I hope they have a good night. They're 15.5-point underdogs, but you never know. That's the beauty of sports, my friend.
I think we talked a lot about the beauty of sports this morning. Right?
Nice, wasn't it? You ready for football?
I knew hanging out with you that I was going to come out of here with a positive mental attitude. And yes, I am ready for football.
Let's have a good time.
I'm not ready for, say, baseball to end, right? But you can enjoy all of the things. That's the beauty of September in sports.
Is beautiful.
The weather's still good.
And thanks to Ryan, thanks to George, thanks to our guests.
They did a bang-up job today.
Happy Labor Day.
Yeah, happy Labor Day to you. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
I'll be laboring.
Yes, that's true. Until late in the evening. Sean Silver, Dan Roach, Nick Cattles coming up next in for Zolak and Bertrand. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, George. We'll talk to you soon.